Xing Yi's return. 1. Ho, sneering in her voice, there's smugness in the woman's eye when confronting Dragoni over her outrageous words. Little bitch, if you had only obeyed my orders properly then you wouldn't be in this situation. Now there's no one to save you. Clinging tightly to the bottle to infuse more of her energy, Longyu's face showed proud arrogance as the aura increased with her act. But very soon that cheeky smile was replaced with a hard stiffness of disbelief. The main reason being by Xiaoqin's ignoring attitude and of how the boy could move at will. Then there's that attitude. It's overbearing and dominating, just like a king's. For everyone else, they were equally as surprised as the former because it's next to impossible for them to imagine how a child of such age could resist such tremendous pressure. To the point where even the former dragon chief paled in comparison. Who allowed you people to kneel before this woman? Though his voice was still young and childish, it's nevertheless enough to release the bind on these dragons and allowed them to get back up from the floor. Longyi grew anxious over this scene. Clasping harder onto her bottle, she urgently releases even more of the blood's pressure and spread it across the air. Unfortunately, she failed this time because they all stood there and stared at her in dismay. How did this happen? Impossible, this is the ancient dragon's essence blood, it has never failed. Longyu began to shudder in horror under the sun's faint glistening light, causing her skin to reveal how ghastly white she's feeling right now. It can't be, the power of the blood is lost. Her husband Xiang Luo had also fallen into a panic. Snatching the bottle in haste into his own hands, the man fires enormous levels of energy into the thing in hopes of activating the pressuring aura again. Yet, none of the dragons bowed at this, only staring quietly at the couple with disconcerting confusion. What is going on? The husband asks his wife using an interrogating tone. It couldn't be helped. This was their last trump card. Without this, their fate was doomed. Dragoni, you wait here with Dai for me. Releasing his hand from the girls, Bai Xiaoqin slowly strode towards the wretched couple. Which of you is the one who kidnapped Dragoni? What would normally be a cuddly and lovable face only looked demonic and threatening to Longyu right now. That's correct. To this woman, the kid was the incarnate of the death god itself. You, who the hell are you? She takes a step back out of fear. Responding with a cheeky face of her own, Dragoni was the one to speak using her tenderly young voice. He is His Highness the Prince. I've said it before, the Queen and Prince will come save me. Shuddering incoherently, the memory of the last mentioning this comment flashes before her eyes. As a result, a deeper level of shock now fills those eyes. Xing Yi's return, too, isn't that queen nothing more than a consort of some kingdom? How can a human king's love toy give birth to such child? Longyu, the first elder finally regained his senses and now the look in his eyes were quite complicated. There's hate, anger, disappointment, and even pain in the heart. Now, what else do you have to say? Tightly clenching her fist, the wretched woman somehow grew vicious in the mindset and turned that anger onto someone that's not even present. Even if I break a leg this time, I will still drag that Xing Yi down with me into the water. What more, if not for that woman then my Xiang Luo would have become the chief already. Shifu, I know I've done something wrong, but, Longyu hangs her head low while clenched that fist like she's the victim. These things were all ordered by Xing Yi. It was her who had me do all these terrible things. What nonsense are you talking about? The first elder became outraged at the continued denial. You still dare to pass the blame on to Xing Yi when things have come this far. Biting her lip, yes, it is Xing Yi, she lured me out of the Dragon Mountain after we drove her off. That's when she poisoned me. Plop. Kneeling down immediately, her voice grew sobbing, everything I said is true Shifu. I have no way to resist Xing Yi's poison. Making my husband the chief. That too is ordered by her, she made me do that as well, including the part of killing Long Shi. Sneaking a hidden upward at the old man, she inexplicably revealed a smirk that she immediately hid away the next second. Xing Yi's a scheming person, she knows you trust her immensely. By killing Long Shi and then forcing me to make my husband the chief, everything would fall into place, a perfect setup for when she returns to take over the position. Leaking tears like a waterfall, Long Yu's false sincerity had an effect and left some of the clan members swaying to believe that story. In comparison to a human, they would much rather believe in their own kin and detest someone who's assumed to have betrayed their clan. I'll tear your mouth off if you keep spouting nonsense. In his desperation, the teen wanted to attack to stop that foul mouth from dirtying his friend. However, before he could take action, a small little hand had reached over to grab at his sleeve to stop him. You let me go. The teenager glares in exasperation. Xing Yi is such a nice woman, why do these people keep trying to frame her? She clearly did nothing, yet someone would always throw dirty water at her. You shut up. Puffing up his cheek, Bai Shuchen forcibly drags the teen behind himself and locks onto the foe. Since you say your orders are the result of Xing Yi's scheme, how about you call her here to compare the story then? Compare? Long Yu's expression darkened. I don't even know if she's still alive or not after she fled, how am supposed to find her? Firstly, whether or not Xing Yi would come doesn't matter because that woman would never admit it. The various dragons nodded in agreement to that comment. Long Yu is right. That Xing Yi is such a cunning woman, there's no way she would return when things are not looking good. You not being able to call her here doesn't mean I can't. Out of everyone's expectation, Bai Shuchen throws out this grenade in front of the crowd using the most innocent and naive face ever. Yet, to their eyes, that face only looked sinister and dark like the devil itself. Xing Yi's return. 3. What did you say? The unease intensifies within Long Yu's heart. Her only wish right now was to drag Xing Yi down with her. This way she could still have an opportunity to get even in the afterlife, since she knows escaping unscathed was next to impossible now. But based on that sentence, it's almost like this little guy knew her or something. Mother! Suddenly the kid cries from out of the blue and ran towards a certain direction. Mother? Their gazes followed the kid's movement and eventually fell upon a woman. Mother, I found Dragony on my own, did I do good? Donning the biggest grin, the kid looks up with his arms wrapped tightly around the woman's waist. Unable to bear this adorable picture, Bai Yan swiftly pulls her son in for a peck on the cheek. Xiachen is mother's best child, so of course you did well. Then compared with Batty father, am I mother's favorite? Sparkling in his big blue eyes, the kid couldn't wait to hear the answer. Sure enough, Bai Yan didn't hesitate in the least and blurted out the answer, of course you are mother's favorite. In that very moment, Di Tsang's expression could only be called a black hole, that's how dark it has become after hearing his wife's response. Moving over to pick the brat out of his mother's arm, the man readily tosses the boy down to the ground in order to possessively pull the woman into a tight embrace. This is my wife. If you want to be someone's favorite, then go find your own wifey. Mother, all pitiful in his appearance, the little steambun sounded aggrieved by this maltreatment. I don't want a wifey, I only want mother. Bai Yan could literally feel her heart melting away at her son's adorable appearance. Hurrying to bring him into her arms for a warm embrace. Until you find a wifey you will always be my precious baby, so don't worry. That only made it worse because that wasn't what the kid wanted to hear. Ready to cry at any moment, then does that mean if I find a wifey you won't take me as your precious baby anymore? I don't want a wifey, I only want to accompany mother for the rest of my life. I knew it, mother only has Batty father in mind now that he's here. If I had known this would happen then I wouldn't have helped him. How could he forget what I did when mother didn't want him anymore? This is unfair. Queen, a young tender voice suddenly drifts over from the front, causing Bai Yan to release her arms and gaze over to the little girl standing before her eyes. Sorry, I'm late. Pulling Dragony in as well, she lets that tearing face rest firmly against her chest to act as a comfort zone. No matter how much this young lass has lived in life since her hatching from the egg, the girl only recently opened up her mind to the world. Therefore, in terms of mentality, Dragony could only be considered a child at heart. Whatever courage she had to endure the days away from everyone has been spent, and it's time for the pent-up emotions to be released. This was especially true while being in front of Bai Yan, Dragony's only real family. Xing Yi's return, for, Queen, I just knew you would come save me. Leaving that warming chest, Dragony speaks out in a sobbing tone, that evil woman force-fed me a poison in order to make me help her, I'm scared. I don't know anyone here. Bai Yan's expression abruptly changed for the worse at this sudden news. Hurrying to test the little missy's pulse, her tense heart eventually subsides after seeing it's nothing serious. It's okay, that poison is nothing special. Take this detox Dan pill, it will remove the toxin within your body as soon as you eat it. Long Yu's face went ice hard there. A simple detox Dan pill is enough to remove the poison. Didn't that human say it's uncurable when I bought it off of him? But this was no time for this wretched woman to dwell on such small matters, because the following second her eyes had fallen onto the new arrival. Gawking her eyeballs out, you. How is it possible, why is Xing Yi here? How dare this woman return to the Dragon Clan? Xing Yi. The teen was the first to cry out in astonishment, his face showing excitement and disbelief. Xing Yi's not dead. She's alive. This is great, she's really alive. Failing to wipe away the tears from his eyes and cheek, the teen eventually gave up and allowed the emotions to run forward like rapids through a river. You child, finding her acquaintance as well after scanning the area, Xing Yi removes the uptight persona she almost always has and changed it to a soft warming look. You're already so old and still crying like a child. But then again, your appearance hasn't changed in the least after all these years. Yuh. Sobbing, the teen rushed over to the woman whom he's been missing dearly until even his cries had turned into an incoherent laugh. Teacher Xing Yi, I'm so happy you're alive, I'm so happy. I never thought I would be able to meet you again in my lifetime. It's been over 100 years, so any hope has been drained away within this teen's heart. The only support keeping his body going was revenge. Xing Yi wasn't only this teen's close confidant, she's also his teacher and tutor. If it wasn't for the dragoness's appearance back then, his fate would have ended long ago by his enemies. So, whether it be personal or for business, he owes her everything to the point where even death wouldn't be a big price. While the two were sharing a wonderful momentary reunion, all eyes had fallen onto Xing Yi's presence by this point. Xing Yi, how dare you return to us? Did you not do enough already back then by betraying the clan? We can leave your life intact out of consideration for the late chief's sake, but you will still have to pay the price for your mistake. Emotional anger has clearly washed away the fear instilled onto them by the kid already, because their voices were sharp and stinging. A total disregard for Bai Shuchen's might and threat. For the dragoness herself, this was akin to a second slap across the face. Though she may have already heard these words once back then when they drove her off, but it's still painful for it to be said a second time. Suddenly, a hand lands onto her shoulder in a reassuring manner. Turning stiff, she swings her head around to find that wondrous woman behind herself. Xing Yi's return. 5. Xing Yi, those who don't believe you doesn't deserve your loyalty. Those who don't believe you doesn't deserve your loyalty. Glimmering with light in those eyes, Xing Yi's pained soul gradually returned to normal after hearing Bai Yan's word. Sweeping her gaze across the interrogating crowd, she imprints the faces into her head for the future. Eventually that focus had locked onto a certain old face. First Elder, how have you been lately? How have you been lately? Though nothing but a simple greeting there, it's still more than enough to make the senior release that waterfall from the eyes. I've been doing well. Xing Yi, where have you been all these years? Others may not believe you, but I won't doubt you. Why didn't you come back to see me earlier? Xing Yi could only make a bittersweet smile in return to that question. It's not like she didn't want to return here to the land that raised her, but under those circumstances, not only would she be unable to protect herself, she would also place this trusted elder into a bad position. I wasn't able to return because of my injuries. Oh yes, First Elder, where is Long Shi? How come I don't see him around? Slightly frowning in the face, the dragoness wanted to find the young lad who used to follow her around wherever she went. According to reason, Long Shi should have been of age and married by now, per APS even with children. How come he's not around when a commotion like this is taking place? The First Elder was uncomfortably stiff in the face because the grief still hasn't left his old eyes. Then before this poor father could explain what has happened to his son to the dragoness, several infuriated voices had cut in. Don't pretend anymore, Tsing Yi, you had Long Yu kill Long Shi and his wife, so why play dumb? You're the worst for not even letting their daughter off. Boom! A surge of dangerous might promptly explodes out of the woman's clothes, causing even the bravest to flinch at this display. What did you just say? Long Shi's been killed by Long Yu? Those who openly taunted her were thrust into a pause for thought while their hearts shuddered at what she meant. This woman's expression doesn't seem to be fake. Can it be, Long Shi's death isn't related to her? Long Yu killed Long Shi. Her explanation is that everything was orchestrated by you so that you can return and take over as the chief after you poisoned her. The sentence was like swords, penetrating straight into the dragoness's heart and causing excruciating pain. Whether it be when she was framed or seriously injured, Tsing Yi has never felt so distressed before. The main reason being that little lad whom she treats as her own brother was now dead, and it's all her fault for returning so late. Tears inexplicably began to trickle down the woman's cheek. You killed Long Shi. Tsing Yi's voice became bone-chillingly cold as she raised her sword at the murderer, so you must die as retribution. Taking 2 steps back in a panic, Long Yu frantically cries out, what do you want to do? You can't silence me just because I exposed you. Everything I did was at your order. You can't do this to me. Ha ha ha. Tsing Yi bursts out laughing, her voice echoing across the entire undersea mountain. There's madness and there's sadness, but more than anything there's a layer of water that wouldn't stay nor leak out from the eyes. That year, you claimed that I colluded with Mo Shi to betray our clan, but then I want to ask, why should I? I am my father's daughter, the future chief of the Dragon Clan. Once I take the seat, then all of you will need to honor my orders, so why should I betray the clan? Tsing Yi's return, 6, but you all, Tsing Yi's chilling smile swept across the many dragons present, believed her words without a second though. And now, this woman is claiming I ordered her to harm Long Shi so that I can take over the position as chief with ease? Where's the logic in that? The gathered crowd were left completely silent. Some were shocked by this revelation while some were too ashamed to utter a response. Compared with humans, dragons on the other hand rarely uses their brain to think due to their nature of being an animal at heart. Back then when Long Yu's husband Xiang Luo claimed of the dragoness's betrayal, they were all convinced with ease and never doubted the idea. But now that they're thinking it through, it has quickly dawned on them that there are many potholes to the story. That's right, Tsing Yi was the next dragon chief anyways. Why should she betray the clan when she only lacked a ceremony to become official back then? It's me. It's my fault that Long Shi is gone. Slowly closing her eyes, Tsing Yi revealed immense pain on the face. If I was still here then none of you people could have harmed him. But the dragoness's wish could only remain a wish. Back then these dragons didn't even give her a chance to explain before attacking her. If she didn't flee for her life then the only thing left of her would have been a corpse. And now on her grandiose return, those whom she thought as her own family was now gone, the little nosy child whom always followed her everywhere was now dead. Suddenly, Tsing Yi shoots open her eyes with lines of blood filling up those pupils. Taking advantage of everyone's absent-mindedness due to her words, the dragoness had already come before Long Yu's face and stabbed her blade ruthlessly against that chest. Poof! Spitting out blood from the mouth, Longyu looked upwards in disbelief at that incredible contour. Shaking her head in a muttering tone, "Your injuries, it's healed." She didn't get to wait for a proper answer, the reason being Tsing-Yi had begun to slash down repeatedly at the wretched woman's body. This was the dragoness's form of retaliation. For all the years of indignation, frustration, and pain, she's letting it all loose like a crazed whip towards the foe. "Elder Long Huang, what is the meaning of all this?" One of the stronger and braver dragons stepped over to ask one of the seniors who came back with Bai Yan's group. "These people, where did you find them from? Weren't your group investigating the lightning trial?" "Humph." Long Huang awkwardly coughs to stop the man from asking any more dangerous questions. "That year, it was us who misunderstood Tsing-Yi." When he spoke, the senior made sure to measure the reaction from Bai Yan and Di Tsang's face. Seeing there's none, the poor guy felt relieved and heaved a long sigh. "Misunderstood Tsing-Yi?" The male frowns and continued to ask. "I ask you then, in addition to Xiang Luo's word about her betrayal, what other evidence is there? Did you see it with your own eyes, or did you hear their conversation personally?" After a moment of thought, the senior Long Huang threw out the same set of questions Bai Yan used to question their group back at the surface. Sure enough, the crowd had fallen silent. It's exactly like the senior predicted, none of them had seen or heard it firsthand, only blindly believing one of their own about Tsing-Yi's betrayal. And, the senior's mouth began to twitch at his own shamelessness. "If you don't want our clan to be destroyed, then keep your nose out of this matter. Don't drag the clan down just because of Longyu and her husband's crime." That said, Long Huang didn't forget to sneak another peek at Di Tsang and Bai Yan. "These two are from the demon realm. If they want to destroy our clan, then it's only a word away. We'd be stupid to protect Longyu and her husband at a time like this." The Demon Realm's Disturbance. 1. Longyu, Xiang Luo. The first elder flies into a rage, his eyes burning with hatred until he could barely keep his breath together. These two, they both betrayed him. One being his once proud disciple and the other a trusted confidant. Ha ha ha. Thinking up to here, the first elder breaks out into a roaring laugh towards the water surface, thus leaving the courtyard echoing with his eerie voice. "Someone come, take Xiang Luo to the dungeons for later disposal." Clutching onto his chest, the senior almost couldn't breathe. Seeing this, the granddaughter Long Dai Dai did any filial child would do and came over to soothe that heaving body with her small little hands. Based on her eyes, it's obvious she's full of worry for this old man. Dai Dai, turning soft at the concern he's getting, "Grandpa here is fine, you don't have to worry about me. Thankfully I am able to figure out the murderer of your parents and got you back before anything happens. So what else do I have to regret?" Suddenly, the bluishly light-colored water above their heads had turned dark, causing them to look up at the reasoning. To everyone's surprise, the shadow was caused by countless creatures circling around and leaving their presence known. Arching her brow at this sight, Bai Yan was the first to react. "Di Tsang, are these the demon beasts you brought along to the Misty Fairy House?" "No, they're not." Showing a heavy expression, the man grew all serious. "Something must have happened in the demon realm. Prior to my departure I left behind a talisman, so there shouldn't be any reason for them to seek me out. For so many demon beasts to appear, there can only be one plausible reason, and that is something majorly wrong must have happened. First Elder, what's going on?" Many of the dragons here started to panic as a result of this strange anomaly. They know, if those demon beasts above the water swoops down and attack, then they would be doomed. Showing dismay as well like everyone else, the elder appeared worried. "I also don't know what's happening either. We have kept to ourselves for so many years that it's next to impossible to know what's happening in the outside world. What's more, where did this many powerful demons come from? There shouldn't be this many powerful ones out in the human world to begin with." Then, before anyone could go investigate the matter, something unimaginable occurred. The water had split apart to create a pathway. This was by no means an easy feat. By combining the efforts of every bird in the vicinity, the gusting wind had become so strong that the water was now being repelled to the side like a tunneling wall and created a path for the one leading the pack. It's a golden dragon and it's radiating a dazzling light like the sun itself. In the following roar created by this magnificent creature, even the great barrier surrounding the dragon mountain was shattered into 1,000 pieces. Ha ha ha. Xiang Luo breaks out into an exaggerated laugh. Don't you all get it yet? Tsing Yi betrayed us and this is the army she brought along to destroy our clan. Why do you think disaster is striking at us as soon as this group of humans came to our home? Ha ha ha. The demon realm's disturbance, too. The faces of the dragons were extremely ugly. Whatever doubt and suspicion they had of Xiang Luo was now reversed and shifted towards Tsing Yi instead. Wait, suddenly, the first elder's eyes grew wide. There's dismay and there's incredulous at the golden dragon leading the pack. This is Ancestor Long Tian. Long Tian was a legend to this dragon clan here in the human world. According to their tales, the dragon had left for the demon realm centuries ago, hence the reason why there aren't many who's still alive who could recognize him. Even so, Long Tian's portrait had long become a mainstay among the younger generation due to his glorious achievement. Ancestor Long Tian. Hiss. Multiple gasps of shock filled the air as they all watched the massive dragon quickly closing in on their location. Despite the excitement that's apparent on his former clan, Long Tian didn't pay them any heed. Transforming into his human form upon arrival, he promptly got on his knees to give a respectful greeting to Di Tsang and Bai Yan. King, Queen, these denizens of the demon realm wished to see you, so I brought them through the barrier. Long Tian didn't make any eye contact with the others still. Ever since he left here centuries ago, he had already discarded his past and welcomed the new world he's in. Therefore, he in fact didn't want to show his presence at all if not for these demon beasts seeking an audience. The whole scene had turned deadly silent right now. Like everyone else, Xiang Luo's face had frozen over as well, because if he did not mishear those words. Demon realm? Isn't that the sacred lands of us demons? An ancestor Long Tian. The first elder quickly crawled over to the golden-robed man, his face shaking with excitement. You are ancestor Long Tian? Clearly unhappy at the disruption, the dragon chief knew he had to address this old senior if he wants to continue his business. We will speak later, do you not see I'm busy? That's the equivalent of admitting his identity, and the sensational news promptly causes the dragons here to break out into admiration and respect. To them, Long Tian was no different than a god. As for the dragon chief himself, he's very bothered by this reaction because his liege was standing right before his very eyes. If they continued to act this way, it would be no different from an insult to Di Tsang. Meanwhile, at the same time, all of the demon beasts that arrived had taken to the ground in a prostrating position, causing the entire dragon mountain to be filled to the brim with members of the other races. Your loyal followers pay respect to the queen, king, and the prince. The voices of the beasts rang across the mountain in a long-lasting ring. What happened? Deep in his voice, Di Tsang's aura grew dominant and overbearing. King, something has happened in the demon realm. One of the leopards at the front raises its head to speak, his voice full of worry. Since that day when the seal around the demon realm broke apart, many of the denizens who didn't belong to the major clans began to flee into the human world. We fear the situation might cause unexpected events, that's why we are here to report this to you. Aside from the major clans that make up the main fighting force of the demon realm, there are also another group that doesn't belong to any factions. Whether or not they're powerful doesn't matter, one thing's for sure though, they aren't able to fit into the norm, hence their exclusion. The demon realm's disturbance. 3. So you all came to find me because of this small little matter? Di Tsang furrows his brow at this. It's not only that. Sensing the displeasure in that tone, the leopard hurries to explain themselves before it's too late. Aside from the ones who ran off into the human world, a group of unknown individuals had also appeared inside the realm. They're very powerful and is wreaking havoc across the land. We are afraid of returning to the demon realm with them there. For Di Tsang, his first instinct when hearing this piece of news was that the forces from the celestial realm has arrived. Should we make a visit back to the demon realm? Bai Yen suggests with an open frown as well. As her husband's main supporting foundation, she too doesn't want to see anything bad happening to the place. Stay here and wait for me, I'll return very soon. Tightly clenching the woman's waist, Di Tsang's voice was soft and unwilling. You. Bai Yen became dreadfully emotionless in her voice. What did you just promise me? Whatever happened to he's not going to keep anything hidden from me? Okay. Seeing there's no room to change his wife's decision, this great demon lord could only relent and grinned at this. One for the strong personality this woman has, the other for the strong level of attachment he's now receiving. Then let's go back together. Taking this all in while being in his mother's arm, Bai Xiachen knew exactly what this meant. Hurrying to state his claim by burying his small little head into that bountiful chest, "Mother, you can't leave me behind, I also want to go back to the demon realm." "Of course my son, we're going back together." Ruffling up the boy's hair to show her affection, Bai Yan's tender smile said it all. "Tsing Yi, I'll leave the matters here for you to personally deal with. I believe no one is going to stop you this time, so I'll send for you when you are finished." "Mother," Bai Xiachen tugs at her sleeve, "then, shouldn't we go back to the Holy Land to pick up little rice and that tigress Huang Xiaoying?" "No need, we will come back for them afterwards." One hand holding the little steam bun, the other dragony, Bai Yen happily acted her role as the parent. "Di Tsang, we're ready to go now." 1 second, slightly narrowing his eyes, Di Tsang's sight eventually locked onto the small bottle in Xiang Luo's hand. Long Yu's husband had lost his wits as soon as he became aware of these people's origin, but now to be the focus of attention of the great demon lord, it's only normal for this coward to shrink that neck to lower his own existence. You're the king of the demon realm. All of this is that foolish Long Yu's fault. If she didn't stupidly claim that girl surrendered to a human, then I wouldn't have taken the matter so lightly and throw myself into this mess. Yes, this is all her fault. Downright expressionless, Di Tsang slowly strode towards the cowardly man that's shivering all over at his every step. It's no surprise one would fear this demon lord, but for one to pee their pants would be a first, and this Xiang Luo actually pulled that off. Now there's a foul smell staining the air. Swoosh! Right when Di Tsang was only several steps away from his target, an invisible force immediately flew out from his body, causing the bottle to fling out of Xiang Luo's possession and onto the demon lord's palm. Normally such a scene would rouse quite the stir from all these dragons, however, this man's tyrannical aura superseded their desire to claim that essence blood. "Here, this belongs to you." Saying only that, the man readily tosses the item onto Dragony hand and returned that attention back to his wife. Yen, I'm done now, let's leave." The demon realm's disturbance, for Dragony blinks in bewilderment, not understanding why she's been given the item. "Di Tsang, does this bottle of essence blood have anything to do with her?" Raising a brow, Bai Yen asks with a soft voice of her own. Smiling mysteriously in return, she will know on her own when the time comes. Due to this matter not being directly part of herself, Bai Yen didn't dwell on the issue and left it as so. After all, there's no way her husband would hurt the lass that's under her care. "Come, we're going home." Bringing Dragony back over her to side, the woman's face glowed with a heart-stopping light under the reflecting water from above. Warmed by this, the lass almost looked like she's fallen into a daze-like state before uttering only a single word, "Okay. From now on I also have a home. Wherever Her Highness is, that will be my home." The matters with the dragon clan here in the Misty Fairy House has now come to a close for Bai Yen and her family. However, for those remaining behind, their anger has only just begun for the ones responsible. Long Yu had curled into an almost fetal shape right now due to the numerous blade wounds across her body. She's been scarred and bloodied by Tsing Yi's whipping attacks earlier. That just goes to show how much of a hopeless situation this woman was in. That woman whom Dragony call queen is the real queen of the demon realm. And that little steam bun is the prince. And Tsing Yi is now under said being's protection. Ancestor Long Tian appeared as well. Quivering in the lips, Long Yu unwillingly closes her eyes in acceptance. Which part of me is inferior to Tsing Yi? Why is it that I'm always overshadowed by her? Aside from my husband whom I chose, she always outshines me. It's always been like this. Thinking of Xiang Luo, the woman promptly jerks open her eye again and turns towards the man whom she's loved over the years. That's right, I have Xiang Luo with me. He said he will never abandon me no matter the consequences. This is something Tsing Yi can never compete with me in. Xiang Luo, struggling to climb up from the floor, Long Yu's frail body looked like she's going to collapse at any moment while her legs swayed towards the man. This time I truly lost everything, but I still have you. A pigment of sorrow blooms within her pained smile. My only hope now is that in the next life we can start over again. I'm sure we can soar through the heavens. Her trembling hand reaches over in a vain attempt to stroke the man's handsome contour. However, what returned next was a ruthless slap across the woman's face. This impact not only destroyed her last wisp of self-esteem, it also slapped away her self-deception. Stumbling backwards at this sudden twist, Long Yu's gaze finally devolved into utter despair from the initial shock. What are you doing? She slightly closes her eyes, allowing the tears to trickle down the side without knowing it herself that she's crying. I forsaked everyone, betrayed those closest to myself, and for what? A slap at the final moment. The Demon Realm's Crisis. 1. What am I doing? Xiang Luo throws a sarcastic snark at his own wife. Shouldn't you know better than anyone else on what I want to do? Long Yu, if it wasn't for a stupid woman like you then I wouldn't be in this miserable state. Hatred now burns like a blazing pyre inside this cowardly man. It's as if he's facing the murderer of his own family rather than his own wife. This reaction dulls the woman's mind because she never expected this man whom always spouted words of forever true love would abandon her like so, and to show such hatred too. First Elder, Xiang Luo swings over to the senior in ruthless might. The matter is all this woman's fault. I have nothing to do with this and I am only involved due to her involvement. No matter what the clan wants to do with her, I have no objection. Staring at that desperate face of her own husband's, Long Yu suddenly pounced at him without giving anyone a chance to stop her. Those eyes were heinously red from the disgust she felt from the betrayal. You heartless dog! I did everything for your sake, how can you do this to me? I'm going to kill you. Biting down at the man's arm, this wretched woman completely tears off a piece of that flesh and causes a burst of blood to come gushing out. It's gory and unsettling. You crazy woman. Without mercy, Xiang Luo returns with a kick of his own. Those eyes radiated a fierce killing intent that resembled nothing like one whom should be protecting his own wife. Heartless bastard, even if I die I will drag you down with me. Long Yu has now devolved into a vengeful banshee. No matter how wretched she was at heart, any woman who's been betrayed so openly would hold a grudge. Shifu, turning to her own mentor, do you want to know how your son died? I'll tell you. It's true, Long Shi was killed by me in Xiang Luo's very own hands. In order to make him the chief, I betrayed you and everyone closest to me. Are you happy? I gave up everything for this animal, just so he can betray me at the end. Ha ha ha. As she laughed in hysterics, those tears soon changed to trickles of blood instead. That's how torn and regretful this woman has become. Why bother to regret now when you knew your fate would be like so if caught? Stepping forward, Tsing Yi's face revealed a frosty smirk. It's bad enough that you framed me back then, but you never should have killed Long Shi and his wife. He never deserved such a fate because he never thought to serve as the chief. Long Yu shuddered for the third time again today. She knows, after learning of Bai Xiachen and the others' background, there's no way for her to get out of this hot mess. So, she didn't even try to retort against that remark. Tsing Yi, still stuck in his hopeless delusion, Xiang Luo rushes over to cling onto the dragoness's leg. I really didn't know anything. All of the things were done by Longyu herself. I was manipulated by her. She only told me I could take the chief's position and nothing else, you must believe me. This only irritated the dragoness rather than help his case. Flashing a dangerous light in those eyes, the both of you are going to die, don't think about escaping. The both of you are going to die, don't think about escaping. Losing his grip at the death sentence, the coward no longer had the courage to continue his act. Scrambling to get off the floor, he makes a hard dash for the outside in his futile attempt to flee. Unfortunately for this bastard though, two of the stronger males had already blocked off his path ahead of time. The Demon Realm's Crisis, 2, the First Elder was the first to take the lead in kneeling down at the dragoness to show his respect. Hail the chief! Hail the chief! Hail the chief! The rest of the clan members quickly did the same after seeing their de facto leader surrendering. Standing there with her hands behind the back, Tsing Yi remains emotionless under the glistening light of the sun's ray breaking through the water's surface. Rise all of you. First, I want Xiang Luo and his wife detained inside a secure dungeon. Afterwards, go locate every single individual who was close to them over the years while I was gone. I want to know who they are and what they've done with the two. Everyone's heart shuddered at this order. They all understand that this was the signaling of a clean sweep. The woman intends to clear out the corrupt factors within the clan. Chief, let me handle this matter. It's time we cleaned out the corrupt variables within the clan. Bellowing out a hearty laugh, the First Elder volunteers himself for the job. Affirming the idea with that sound. I have another news to announce as well. After this matter is over, the clan here will merge into the one over in the demon realm. Now that the seal is broken, all demons are one, so there is no longer a need for two dragon clans. Also, I am not your chief. The First Elder didn't take the last bit so well. Showing dismay, but where are you going? Curving her lips into a smile at the thought of her own future, I of course am going to follow the one I swore loyalty to for the rest of my life. After I'm done dealing with Longyu and her husband, anything else that happens with the clan is no longer my concern. I only have one identity thereafter, Bai Yan's familiar beast. Demon Realm. A woman wearing a flaming red dress was currently frowning at the bunch of people in front of herself. Go back all of you, I cannot leave this sacred mountain. But Lady Suzaku, Fourth Elder smiles wryly. First Elder left with State Teacher to some unknown place, and most of the palace guards are away with the princess. Now there's only Tiger Chief Huang Che Mu and the other remaining elders to stand in defense of the palace. If things continue like this, then that wild lass from who knows where really will topple us demons. If either one of those two were to remain behind, then none of these demons here would be afraid and be stuck in a passive state. Sadly, that's not the case, and now there's no one left who could contend with the powerful people that's currently causing havoc across the demon realm. That woman is from the celestial realm. Suzaku, Phoenix, turned heavy in the face as anger brewed inside those eyes. If not for those from the celestial realm, then King and Queen wouldn't be separated for so many years, nor would us the four sacred beasts be separated by life and death. The vendetta has long been made between this Phoenix and those Celestials. Unfortunately for her, she's unable to leave this demon mountain to exact revenge. They should be from the celestial realm. Now that the seal is broken, anyone is able to freely leave and come as they please to our domain. Since the human world wouldn't have this many powerful individuals that could rival our own, I believe they are. The Fourth Elder answers with a sigh after some contemplation. Thankfully, I sent away some of the most talented members from the various clans prior to this incident, otherwise they will die in vain at this rate. In the Fourth Elder's mind, his opinion was that if they couldn't beat the enemy then the next best option would be to reduce the losses until their king returns to save them. Gleaming a cold light in her eyes, Suzaku eventually loosens her tightly knit brow. Don't worry. Although I can't leave this mountain, that doesn't mean I'm unable to fight. Lure those people here and I will deal with them personally. The Demon Realms Crisis. 3. Suzaku's an indifferent person to begin with. Ever since she parted ways with those whom she cared for 1,000 years ago, she's had no extra feelings left for these in the demon realm. However, this place remains to be the precious domain her queen wishes to protect. That reason alone meant she couldn't turn a blind eye. What's more, the wild lass coming out of the fourth elder's mouth might be from the celestial realm as well. Arching his fist in delight at the notion, fourth elder didn't think twice about the offer. Then we will have to bother your ladyship. That said, the group quickly got up from the floor and departed from the mountain. At the same time, a ruckus had erupted outside the palace gate. Doors flung apart to one side, an old lady was left stranded on the ground with her crutch due to the fall she took. This granny kept calling out the fact that it hurts due to this. "Ma, are you all right, Ma?" Tiger Chief Huang Che-mu grew furious at the sight. After confirming his own mother was fine, the man immediately locked eyes onto the ones responsible in front. Their demeanor was no different from gods looking down at some peasant. That's how egotistic their attitude was, especially the girl wearing the pink dress at the middle. "Quit straggling around the entrance. Hurry up and scram before I get mad." An old man next to the girl stepped forward to holler out this demand. Huang Che-mu had to fight hard in order to suppress the urge to pounce at the rude old man. Of the multiple clans that's willingly to stand up to these invaders, his Tiger clan had suffered the greatest casualties and damage. If not for the fourth elder being smart and sending a large flock of their underlings out to the human world for help, they would have already thrown themselves at the enemy regardless of the price. "Chief." The Tiger guards behind their leader all drew their weapons, those blades ready to go at any moment. "Let's strike out at these bastards. When the king and queen returns they will surely get revenge for us. When have us demons suffered such indignation? These bastards are only acting out because his majesty isn't around. If state teacher or first elder is still around, they would never dare to go wild on our turf. That's right, nothing but a bunch of cowards that only know how to pick on the weak. Us demons haven't fallen so low that we would be afraid of such people." The impudent words from the invaders has definitely angered those standing here in defense of the palace. Right now, a single word of consent was all that's needed for these loyal demons to charge forward, even if that means their own death. "Huang Che, old Madam Huang, what are you two doing?" Right when the Tiger Chief's about to make the gesture to attack, a familiar voice rings out from the rear, causing that hand to halt in mid-action. "Elders," old Madam Huang hurries over to the group of seniors. "Is the queen back yet? Where's my granddaughter, is she back as well?" The Demon Realms Crisis. 4. In order to pursue her own love and future, Huang Xiaoying, Tigress, had left the demon realm along with Little Rice and Bai Yen back then of her own accord. As a result, this poor grandmother could only come to the palace every day seeking information on whether or not her granddaughter has returned. Watching the trembling old body of the woman that's making an almost praying gesture with those hands, the elders present all sighed at this picture. In the end they decide to spell the truth: the queen hasn't returned yet. In that instant old Madame Huang seems to have aged considerably as her hands hung powerlessly back to her sides. "Ma," feeling his heart tightening up, the Tiger Chief attempts to help support that unstable body. "Don't worry Ma, Xiaoying is with Her Highness so there's nothing to fret. I'm sure they're all right and will soon be back." Naturally this didn't work despite the effort. She's heard it many days already since that day her granddaughter ran away from home. "What were you people doing just now?" Fourth elder frowns as he eyed the bunch of unwelcomed intruders at the front. According to the elder's assessment, the girl in pink should be the one in charge despite the other seniors nearby being incredibly more powerful. It's almost like he's confronting a tsunami just by staring at their aura. Fourth Elder. The tiger chief grits his teeth, this bunch of bastards hurt my ma. Truth was, this filial son had wanted to send this old grandmother out to the human world as well in search of Huang Xiaoying. However, age has always been a bitch when it came to travel, so the notion was quickly dropped after putting all the details on the table. You people have already kidnapped a lot of us demons away during this time, why do you not spare even an old granny? The one to cry out was the fifth elder. Beard shaking, this one had flames of hatred in his eyes. The girl returns with a snarky smirk, I did catch a lot of demon beasts to form contracts, that's true. However, all those are too poor in terms of quality, hardly worth of my noble status. What do you want then? The fifth elder's fist starts making a crunching sound from the tense grip. Very simple, fiddling with a pang of her hair, the girl smiles brightly despite her next words. I heard your king is very powerful. I'm sure he would make a wonderful pet for myself, how about that? Those arrogant words literally left everyone bulging their eyes out. To these demons, that fine contour only looked disgusting and grotesque because it's not the face of a beautiful damsel, but an executioner. Half a month ago when the seal to the realm shattered due to the eye being destroyed, it was this girl and her people who first charged in here and wreaked havoc across the land. Those who were most talented and young was immediately sent out to the human world in search of help, but for those who were slow and incapable of fleeing with the main body, they were promptly captured by these invaders. The ending for those poor souls were either death by torture or forcefully tamed by a blood contract, forever sealing their fate as slaves to be used at will. The Demon Realm's Crisis, 5, Outrageous. How dare this female even think about making the king her pet? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Ha ha ha. Fourth elder bursts out laughing, his eyes full of mockery and contempt. Little lass, I'm afraid you are nowhere as capable as you think you are. Tame our king. The remark obviously didn't leave a good impression on the pinkly dressed girl that's in charge of the invaders. Darkening in the face, only a bunch of animals, what ability do I need in order to tame a beast? But know this, even an animal can have their status raised by having a proper owner. My identity is unquestionable, so your king will also rise in order. If that king of yours return and find out you're hindering his wondrous future, then I can already see him killing you first. Seeing the other elders are quickly losing their temperaments as well now, fourth elder hurries to block off their movement with his hand. Cold in the face, it's possible to let you meet our king, however, I'm curious if you're brave enough to follow us to him. What would I fear? Cocking her chin high, the girl stands ready like a proud peacock, lead the way you lowly beast. Miss. One of the elderly men beside the lass hurries to stop this by tugging at her sleeve, this isn't a good idea. I heard there's also a lot of powerful masters in the demon realm, so I suspect they are luring us into a trap. Masters? The girl shows a despised grin in return, Senior Wei, why do you look down at yourself before even meeting the foe? I've been here for so long and haven't met a single master yet, not to mention some whatever king. If that king does show himself, I will make him surrender to me for sure. A beast should have the awareness of a beast. Nothing but animals, how dare they start pretending to be royalty and whatnot. Seeing his words won't have any effect, Senior Wei could only smile wryly as he followed the girl inside the palace. Ma. Supporting his own mother's back, Huang Che Mu makes a bittersweet face, you should have left with the group at that time. Leave? Old Madame Huang shakes that head in disagreement, no, I'm not leaving this place. This is our home, where can I go? Also, Xiaoying will definitely come back on her own, she will. Having said this, the granny suddenly slaps her own son across the head like she's thought of something infuriating. Why didn't you help Her Highness that day? If the queen didn't leave, then Xiaoying wouldn't have chased after them as well. This is all your fault. The tiger chief didn't have any words to soothe that ire. It's not like he didn't want to help, rather he only learned of the fact after the matter when Ditsang flew into a rage. "Ma, you know I didn't know about the matter until it's too late." Rubbing the back of his head, the tiger chief felt like he's being wronged. Sending a glare at her own son again, "When Xiaoying comes back you are not allowed to yell at her or punish her. It's all because of your poor attitude that she ran away from home." But the girl clearly ran away in pursuit of that white cub. What does it have to do with my attitude? Whether or not this discussion's up for debate wasn't a choice because the granny had started to walk towards the palace as well. "Ma, what are you doing?" The tiger chief grew anxious at this sight. Pulling at his own ma's waist to stop her, "This is too dangerous. You need to go back to the residence." Grinding her molars, "You can go back if you like, I'm not leaving. These bastards are too much. How dare they go after the king with their filthy thoughts?" Finding there's no way to change her mind, the tiger chief knew he's better off letting her do as she pleases. Following from behind like a good boy, the mother and son duo went off into the direction of where the elders disappeared to. The Demon Realms Crisis, 6, Base of the Mountain. The hearts of these elders were all thumping with excitement for they're so close to their goal. However, things don't always pan out the way one wishes. Right when they're about to head inside and succeed, Senior Wei promptly got hold of the girl in pink to stop their movement. "You all are certain the king is inside this mountain?" His eyes scanning the demon elders with suspicion. Growing heavy in the face, fourth elder flashes a beam of cunning in his eye. "Of course he is, you only need to come with us to meet him." The senior chuckled at this blatant lie. Turning his attention back to the lady, a devious smirk appears. "Miss, the terrain here is too complex and rough, you shouldn't bother yourself by going up this mountain. Since their king is going to be your pet anyways, have him come down instead. One should know who is the owner and who is the pet." This idea promptly causes the Missy to light up with glee in her already unpleasant face. She was being impatient earlier, so the notion of setting an example never even crossed her mind. That idea is perfectly logical. "Where's your king? Tell him to get down here to see me." Whisking her sleeve as she took a seat at one of the tree stumps nearby, she looks down at the several demon elders whom were completely taken aback by this sudden turn of event. "We were so close. Only one step away, only one step. If they go up the mountain then Lady Suzaku can definitely slay these invaders." The demon elders all thought of something similar and dreaded their own failure. "From what I see, your so-called king isn't even here in the demon realm, am I right?" Senior Wei begins mocking the other side with his smug grin. Stunned by this idea, the girl immediately swings her head around to the senior before turning back to the demon elders. One could clearly see the surge of anger swelling up from within. "You old farts dare deceive me. Someone come tie these animals up. I like to see if their so-called king will come to save them or not." At the same time while that was occurring, a group of people had just arrived at the border between the human world and the demon realm. Yen, we're almost there." Di Tsang's iris had sank in after seeing the mountains of corpses lying across the ground. "I only left for a bit, how dare these people make a mess of my world." Bai Yen as well was showing a frown at this horrid sight. Where are the powerful masters of the demon realm? Shouldn't they at least defend the weaker demons? When flying over here, the group has already learned of the details and what's happening. According to the reports, there's a girl who suddenly barged into the demon realm after the seal was broken. Together with her followers, they captured every demon beast they could get their hands on. The strong would be forcibly bound to a blood contract to be used as slaves, the weak murdered without a second thought. That's the main reason for the huge flock of demons coming out to find Di Tsang. They needed his help. Di Tsang's complexion got heavy at his wife's question. The elite fighters have all been sent away to a secret domain for training, so they're not around to defend the realm. Aside from First Elder and State Teacher, there's no one capable of putting up a fight. Suzaku couldn't leave the mountain, so of course she's not included in the man's equation. As to why Di Tsang and his followers would be so careless as to leave their home base defenseless, that has to do with the seal as well. Over the years, no one could readily attack the demon realm due to the place being secluded from the rest of the world, making it almost pointless to keep exceptionally powerful individuals at ready. Batty father. Lighting up in his big blue eyes, Bai Shuchen shoots up like a kid who's found a new toy. I also want to go into that secret domain for training. I will enhance my strength and protect mother. He's the Demon King. 1, okay, raising his hand, Di Tsang ruffles the boy's hair in consent. The main reason he didn't send his son into the secret domain before was mostly due to that being inside the boy's body. Now that it's being restrained using his own powers, there shouldn't be any problems for the time period. Demon Mountain. A group of guards now surrounds the members of the Elder Council, causing the atmosphere to be tense and critical. Ha ha ha. Fourth Elder suddenly breaks out into an eerie laugh of cunning. So what if our king isn't here? Now that we're at the Demon Mountain, you people can't do anything to us anyways so long as we take a few more steps upwards. That's right, they are effective safe already due to Suzaku being only a few meters away from being able to attack. If they forced their way out of this encirclement then no harm would come to them. Growing heavy in the face, Senior Wei wasn't going to take that threat lightly. He's also sensing an ominous sensation when peering up towards the peak of the mountain like something frightening lies in wait. Retreat. Waving his hand to order everyone to move, Fourth Elder knew this was their best opportunity to make a run for it. Sure enough, their assault easily catches one of the enemies off guard, thus creating an opening for their escape. Unfortunately, right when the elders were already steps away from reaching their goal of fleeing, an unexpected variable had caused them to turn around. It was old Madame Huang. The granny has been taken hostage by that Senior Wei with his deathly grip around the woman's throat. I heard you animals put a lot of emphasis on feelings. Don't tell me all of you are going to abandon this one to her fate. Ma. Huang Che-mu was the first to cry out after coming back to his sense. Inwardly, he was hating himself for not doing a better job of convincing his own ma of leaving instead of tagging along. Now not only was everyone stuck in a situation as a result of his moment of softness, she's also in danger. Do you have no shame in threatening an elderly? Let her go now. The one speaking out was Third Elder, his voice seething with rage when eyeing the perpetrator. Senior Wei sneers at this. You think I'm stupid or something? I know very well you're trying to lure us into that mountain. I don't know what's in there but my intuitions are telling me it's either a trap or something dangerous. If you want this old hag to live then come down from there this instant. Changing in their faces to a fearful white, Fourth Elder and the rest never expected this old man to be so vigilant. Just getting close is enough to sense the danger. You let go of my ma, the Tiger Chief rushes the person with fire in the eye. However, before that punch could even make contact, Senior Wei's one little sweep of the hand was enough to send out a wave of force to subdue the enraged chief. Sprawled onto the floor like a beaten cat, Huang Che-mu could not budge an inch, only spewing blood from his mouth and making a deathly glare with those bloodshot eyes. Let go of my ma. Compared with her son's resentment and panicking appearance, old Madame Huang was rather calm there. She's experienced a lot over the long years of her life so death wasn't something she's afraid of. You people think I'm afraid of death or something? You're wrong. Son, go back to the elder's side immediately, my granddaughter cannot be without family after my death. He's the Demon King, too. Old Madame Huang has no regrets about coming along. To this granny, these people are here to destroy her home so of course she must stay and share the fate of this realm. Ma. Huang Che-mu cries out using an excruciating voice like his lungs about to give. He's listened to his mother all his life, but this time he couldn't, not by abandoning her. I told you to scram. The granny grew furious over her son's disobedience. Her eyebrows had long become white due to age, But now with this devastating event and her granddaughter's departure, old Madame Huang's previously well-maintained face was now haggard at this point. Want to go? Too bad for you, people, leaving is not an option. Senior Wei mocks them with a sly grin. Think this over quickly, watch me kill this old granny or come down from that hill to save her, pick before I make the choice. The elders present had all stopped in their footsteps by now up at the hill, their eyes watching the stubborn old madam and her son struggle. Grandpa Wei, the girl impatiently frowns, why are we wasting time on these people? Let's just go right up and deal with them, there can't possibly be anything dangerous on a tiny mountain like this. Having said that, the lady then began to willfully walk towards where the demon elders are. However, the senior clearly didn't agree and promptly pulled her back in haste. Miss, my intuitions won't be wrong here. This mountain is shrouded in a heavy air and littered with traps. Without a proper trap master with us, we won't be able to ensure your safety. Back up at the hill, fourth elder was growing increasingly more anxious as the seconds dragged on. He's not able to stand idly by and watch the tiger chief and the old madam die in front of his eyes, that's not something he could get past his conscience. This time it looks like we won't be able to avoid this crisis. Fourth elder smiles wryly as he resolutely walked towards the base again. Chief Huang, I still owe you a favor from before, so consider this as repayment. When his eyes fell upon the tiger chief again, the elder's face looked helpless yet firm, like he's prepared to meet his fate. Although he's ranked fourth among the many elders in the palace, fourth elder was in fact the youngest of the batch. If not for his exceptional talent, he never would have been conscripted. As for the favor mentioned here, it was by coincidence, but he had suffered a serious injury at one point in his life. When that occurred, it was Huang Che-mu who inadvertently saved himself, hence the favor. Old Madame Huang was now starting to panic after seeing that figure coming down to them. What are you doing? Hurry and leave, I don't need anyone to save me. Despite that, the fourth elder didn't slow or become hesitant. In a blink of an eye, he's already at the mountain base again, causing the old madam to be filled with regret due to this ending. The granny doesn't fear death, but she does fear dragging down others with her due to a simple mistake she caused. That's a sin and a shame she wouldn't be able to put down. Ha ha ha. Senior Wei hasn't fallen so low to lose his humanity yet. Pushing the old granny aside with one palm strike, the old man zooms forward like a burst of lightning and instantly stood before the fourth elder. He's the Demon King. 3. The fourth elder didn't have time to react due to the stiffness in him when confronting this overwhelming aura. Next thing he knew was a loud bang against his chest that caused himself to flinch backwards in pain, blood dripping down the corner of his mouth. Making a poignant smile, you people from the celestial realm are only so much, and here I thought you would take my life with that strike. Impudent beast. Senior Wei flew into a rage, his attacks coming down like a storm. Due to the fourth elder being prepared this time around, he did not get hit right away. Nevertheless, the tide still lies with the enemy, leaving the young elder on the defensive. Bang! In a careless exchange, a hit lands and causes that already pained face to turn even whiter. Fourth elder. Suddenly, a hand reaches over from the side and supports him from behind. Turning stiff at the realization, the elder promptly swings his head around to find a familiar face. Quivering in the lips, Old Five, what are you doing here? Without hesitation or fear, the rest of the members of the Elder Council had also returned from the hill, their faces firm and unyielding. You guys, Old Four, all of us are one, that's what makes the Demon Council strong. First elder is away and second elder is being punished, that makes me the leader here. The third elder coldly confronts Senior Wei, who's eyeing himself with contempt, so, we will leave together if we can, and if not then we will perish here together. The fourth elder couldn't help but smile at his brethren's stubborn yet heartwarming decision. Okay, we will live together or die together. The lady in pink didn't miss this scene. Caressing her chin in contemplation, I knew animals are more emotional and closer together than us humans, interesting. If I bind that demon king with a blood bond, wouldn't that make the entire demon realm my slave? Yes, that will do nicely. But wait, wasn't the queen of these animals also a human? Another old man nearby nods in affirmation. Yes, that queen is a human. Then that's a pity. If that person is a human, then she can't be my pet. The lady sighs at the notion. I don't like others tarnishing my things, not even my pets. When I subdue the demon realm's queen, killing her is just a matter of a word. Demon beasts are known to protect their owner with ferocity. If I become their mistress, then they will surely obey my orders. Afterwards I can just find that king another wife from among the batch of females. Miss, that demon king and the human woman seems to have produced a child as well. The old man explains with a furrowed forehead. Child? The lady snarls, if that child's talent is excellent then it can stay, but if not then remove it as well. What a shame, for the demon king's bloodline to be tainted by a common woman. Although she too was a human and holds the demons here in contempt, but this lady couldn't deny that Di-san must have a lineage superior to all the rest. And now it's being tarnished by an outside source. Regarding the dialogue between those two, the battling elders didn't hear it because they're far too focused on the enemy. But if they did... He's the demon king, for, with the added addition of the other elders into this fight, Senior Wei himself was now forced to a standstill as well and couldn't do anything to them. Making an involuntarily frown at this lack of progress, the girl in the back shoots a signaling look to the other subordinates under her charge. The old men understood immediately. Drawing their weapons, they rushed over to join the fray. Old 8, careful. Fourth elder tenses up at the sight of an enemy trying to attack his brother from behind. In his haste, the young man could only push the person aside to take his place. Because of the exhaustion in his stamina and the duration of the fighting being dragged on, fourth elder honestly didn't have any ability to escape that strike anymore. Next thing he knew, a blade had pierced right through his back and out through his chest. Blood came gushing forward like a column as a result, causing everyone's eye to be dyed an anguish red. Rushing the assailant like a mad dog at this sight, third elder fuses all his power into that palm strike to repel the enemy. Surprisingly, he actually managed to force the foe backwards with his attack to gain some space despite being the weaker one. Old 4. Catching the injured one before he collapses, third elder could see the man's robe had been stained red by blood. That ghostly white complexion didn't help the situation either. Oof. Fourth elder coughs hard in his attempt to speak. I'm fine, don't worry about me. Hurry, hurry and take old Madame Huang up to the Demon Mountain. Scanning the enemies blocking their path again, then back to themselves who are either injured or just barely holding on, third elder makes a bittersweet smile. Looks like it's too late now. Hey! The girl breaks through the crowd, her hands forking that waist like she's annoyed by the delay. I will give you all another chance. Go bring your king to me and I will not take your life out of consideration that you're going to be my slaves. P. Spitting at her words, eighth elder scornfully yells out his response, dream on. Our king will never become someone's pet or slave. You're not him, so how can you make the decision for him? Besides, how would you know he wouldn't want to be my pet? The lady sneered in contempt, saying it nicely he is the king of this realm, but saying it badly then he's no more than livestock. He choo-choo, am of noble status. Him not being my pet is burying his talent, understand? But before anyone could say another word or respond to this outlandish statement, a dark and menacing voice promptly spread across the terrain from the sky, causing even the ground to shudder in fear. You want to make me your pet? Greatly surprised, he choo-choo swings upward immediately to find the source. To her astonishment, that purplish figure and the eye-stunning face had left her speechless. She's already heard of how beautiful and handsome some of these demon beasts could become when taking on a human form, but not to this degree. What a shame, to think such a peerless face would belong to an animal. There's an unconcealed look of disappointment in the girl's eye for sure, but when she saw the female floating there next to the man next, her eyes promptly narrowed into a slit of hostility. The woman up there wore a long dress of red, stunning and beautiful. The pair was a match made in heaven. Needless to say, the second person was the mentioned queen, and the one he Chu intends to kill. Mother, Bai Xiachen carefully climbs up from the golden dragon's back and points toward the girl below. Why does she want to make Batty Father her pet? I'm worried that if she does, Batty Father would be so grossed out that he won't be able to eat. He's the Demon King. 5. Bai Xiachen's voice may be very childish and downright innocent sounding, yet it's damning and irritating to this he Chu. Grandpa Wei. Grinding her teeth with a livid face, the lady howls out her command. Nodding at that, the senior knew what must be done. Scanning the excited demon elders, then at the Demon King's face up in the sky. As expected, the king of the demon realm is different from these rabbles. If you are willing to submit to my lady, then there will be plenty of benefits waiting for you. Cold in the voice, the senior throws out his idea of a good proposal only to be ignored like he's non-existent. Landing on the ground by jumping down from the gold dragon's back, Bai Yen directly comes before fourth elder to stuff a pill into the man's mouth. Moments later, the blood was quenched and the wounds quickly mending. Queen, the injured individual started to get emotional once the tears started to flow. You're finally back. That day it really wasn't His Majesty's intent, he was framed by another who used second elder to their advantage. We made sure the perpetrator has paid the price. Watching the grim look on the fourth elder's face, Bai Yen sighed. I know everything, that's why I returned. Openly sobbing now, this is great. The queen is back and the king won't be so furious anymore. Only a human woman. I'm really curious on why you would become the queen of these animals. Don't tell me it's because you couldn't think things through after being discarded by another man, right? If that's the case, then it's truly a pitiful story. Finding that she's being ignored, he Chu decides to forcibly interject into their conversation by using her sarcastic words. Bang! Suddenly, a strong gush of wind sweeps over from the side from out of nowhere. She wanted to dodge out of instinct from this surprise attack, but it's already too late by then. Her body got tossed over into the air similar to a broken kite as blood sprinkled the ground like rain droplets. Miss! Senior Wei flies into a rage, his eyes spewing fire at the silvery-haired assailant. You will pay for this transgression with your life. Shrouded in his own anger, this old fella has apparently become blind to Di Zhang's overwhelming and dangerous aura. In a flash, the senior has come before the great demon king to grapple that neck using his talon-like fingers. Unfazed and unafraid, the demon king didn't even flinch at this direct attempt at his own life. Releasing his insane power to enshroud the senior in his own force, a strange and eerie of silvery light seems to have materialized due to the intensity. Poof! None of them could catch what just happened. They only knew Senior Wei just abruptly froze in mid-action and started to bleed all over his body. It's as if innumerable swords had slashed and pierced through his body from out of nowhere. For a while there, the whole mountain was thrust into a deadly silence where even a touch of a feather could be heard. The most astounded here had to be the people brought along by he Chu, of course. They were horrified and stunned by this amazing display of power. It couldn't be helped. Senior Wei was the strongest among their group. Without him, what could they do against this demon king? You are not from the celestial realm, Di Zhang loudly proclaims. Speak, where are you people from? Third elder quivered at this notion. King, you mean to say they're not from the celestial realm? That's right, showing an evil smirk. Those cowards know very well of the demon realm's strength. They would never dare come invade so openly, let alone claim they could subdue me. Tire them to death. 1. Not from the celestial realm. Everyone had to take a momentary pause to take in this astounding news. If she's not from the celestial realm, then where? Another higher realm? Loosening his arms around Bai Yan's waist, Di Tsang slowly came before he Chu, who still sprawled there on the floor after his attack. It's dreadful for the lady. Not only did she suffer a severe injury by that strike, the ominous air felt suffocating in her current state like she's being pressed down by a mountain. In addition to the human world, demon world, and celestial world, there's also other worlds in between these three. Since you're no ethereal being from the underworld, it's safe to assume you're from the spirit world, or spirit realm by its official name, am I correct? Under that tyrannical gaze, he Chu instinctively wanted to squirm away. You. How did you know that? The spirit realm was located at the outermost edge of the demon realm, it's also the main channel to the other realms like the human world. Due to the fact that the various realms were sealed and cut off from one another 1,000 years ago, the spirit realm was also left in seclusion during long period of isolation, hence the reason why the demon elders didn't realize this fact. But now that the barriers separating the various worlds has been shattered at the hands of Di Tsang's will, everything was quickly coming undone and returning to its original state from eons ago. I've said it already, those cowards from the celestial realm doesn't have the guts to come make trouble for me. Feeling the man's violent aura coming down above now that they're only inches apart, he Chu starts flustering in a panic, someone, quick, save me. The old followers that came with the lady trembled at the thought of confronting this menacing foe. Even so, they are the girl's guardian and would carry out their duties as needed. With a stern heart, they force themselves to move forward. Have you asked for my opinion in making trouble for my man? Bai Yan's hand caresses her son's head, she suddenly chuckles and interrupts the moment. You are nothing but a monarch rank, do you think you can stop us? One of the seniors snaps at her. I can't, but they can. Pointing to the members of the Demon Council, her face showed confidence in them. Infuriated by this mockery, don't think just because Senior Wei is dead that you can insult us like so. They are nothing but beaten dogs that lost to us. In the world of demons, they are only afraid of Di Tsang. As for everyone else, they don't even consider them a target. Ignoring the rude remark, Bai Yan comes before the fourth elder again and tosses over a storage bag. Fourth elder made a surprised and confused face after inspecting the content. Smiling, these Dan pills are something I made while staying at the Misty Fairy house, they're called Limit Breaker Dan pill. Take one and your physical strength will exceed your original limits. For example, fourth elder, you are currently at the upper level of the monarch rank, am I correct? With this you will be able to have the arm strength equal to a celestial rank. Hiss. A pour of gasping sounds washed over these people, their looks filled with disbelief when facing Bai Yan's gorgeous contour. A pill capable of raising one's arm strength by a whole rank? Where did she get such amazing recipes from? Bai Yan didn't do much to explain because in her view this wasn't all that amazing. Sure, it does bring the user's physical strength up by a whole rank after consumption, but this 7th grade alchemic pill doesn't truly changes one's inner power, making it somewhat superficial after the expiration period. Also, the other one in there is a type of 8th grade alchemic pill called Mending Dan pill. You guys saw its effect earlier already when I threw one into fourth elder's mouth. It can speed up one's recovery if consumed. Tire them to death, too, Bai Yan smiles devilishly. In addition to those two, there are also a couple of other pills in there. Some can help rejuvenate your internal energy, some will regrow your limbs if you must, they're all yours now. I only have one condition though, kill these people even if you guys have to tire them to death. Fourth elder and the rest of his brothers were all showing an unbelievable level of excitement on their faces. Staring at the ones who mocked them earlier, those seniors who came to invade their home no longer looked so menacing or dangerous, rather they have become praise in their eyes instead. My brothers, these bastards dare come make a mess of our home, for that, we will show them the price of this transgression. Yes, we need to exact revenge for the innocent lives lost at their hands. The elders frantically rushed the group of old-timers and directly stopped their act of attacking Di Tsang as well. With the effects of Bai Yan's support, the fight played out exactly as she wished. Though their strength remains inferior to the enemy, but their physical strength was up there. Besides, no injury mattered anymore aside from a direct death blow. At the same time, it's unsure where the kid managed to find a bench, but Bai Xiachen had managed to take a seat with a bottle of pills in hand. His image right now was no different from a boy currently in the theaters munching on popcorn. Talk about ridiculous. Dragony too. As the young lass watched her friend's yummy appearance, her mouth just could resist salivating. Thankfully the little steam bun didn't act like his usual gluttonous self. Here, one for you. These are snacks mother made for me, so I have a lot here. Towards the opposite sex around his age, Bai Xiachen had always been very generous, especially when his lifelong dream was to get a lovely little sister. Thank you, Your Highness. All smiles in the eye, Dragony happily sat down on the bench with the boy while they watched the show play it. The old seniors were getting more and more desperate as the situation dragged out right now. Ignoring the fact that the Demon Elders has a huge advantage due to the stash of replenishments lying around, the arm strength has either become on par with their own or even surpassed some of them. At the rate they're going, it's just a matter of time before they fall. Miss, we really can't hold on anymore. A yellowed-robed senior makes a bitter smile. Like her subordinates, He Chu was also showing despair on the face. How can this woman come up with so many powerful Dan pills? And her son and the little maid is able to use them as snacks. This is ridiculous. Even back in the spirit realm, most of the people of power would break their heads for a single one. Don't stop, keep fighting. Jumping up from his bench as soon as he saw the foe ready to make a run for it, Bai Xiachen forks those tiny arms around his waist like a bratty child. These bad people wanted to make my batty father his pet and disperse our family. They are not allowed to leave. As the little prince of the demon world, his words held a lot of weight. Therefore, Fourth Elder and his brothers didn't stop their attacks at all and increased the intensity even. Tire them to death. 3. No matter how strong a cultivator was, they're no different from an average martial artist once their internal energies has been exhausted. And sure enough, the weaker guards that came with He Chu were the first to fall after they depleted their strength. Poof! Finally, after a few more rounds of exchanges, one of the seniors eventually succumbed to Fourth Elder's blade. Piercing right through the person's chest, blood dyed the senior's clothing as he fell lifelessly out of the sky and onto the ground. Aside from the eerie thud made by the impacting flesh, there's nothing else, not even a scream or cry for help. Run! The other old fellas wanted to flee as soon as they saw the worsening situation. Unfortunately for them though, Fourth Elder and his brothers weren't going to let them escape since they're well prepared for this outcome. As soon as they made a turn, the Demon Elders had already formed an encircling formation, blocking their path of escape. Want to run? Didn't you people claim you're going to make our king into your Mrs. Pet? What now? Why run? In that instant the old seniors were all ghostly white upon recognizing their predicament. With no path left for escape, their eyes inexplicably fell upon the Demon Mountain where it remains unguarded. Perhaps this Demon Mountain is our only chance of survival. Not going to think it through since the last wisp of hope now lies before their very eyes, these old-timers didn't hesitate and rushed for their impending doom without realizing it. Fourth Elder and his brothers didn't chase them at this point of course. Crossing their arms around their chest, these people were quite happy to see the enemy running up the hill. This is your own fault. Fourth Elder smirks sarcastically at the group. As if they will live after stepping into the Demon Mountain. Exactly at the same time as his words came forward, a loud bird cry rang out from the mountain while a beam of flaming heat bursts upward to enshroud the entire landscape. In the midst of the flames, a huge vermilion bird spans her wings to rise up into the sky, causing the temperature to reach a hellish level. Towards this sudden twist of event, the trespassers only felt horror and disbelief. It's over. For a time, this thought was all that was inside the group's head. They wanted to flee for their lives at this incredible enemy, but their legs wouldn't budge. In fact, the area around their crotch had become wet due to the urine coming out of their private parts. What came next was devastating for those suffering the brunt of that heat wave. Suzaku didn't hold anything back with her powers. Fanning out her wings again, it only took a mere moment before her flames blew over to completely incinerate the foes. Chu was absolutely stunned by this overwhelming display of force. The sole reason she survived and didn't die along with her subordinates was the fact that they abandoned her when they fled up the hill. And now, she's alone and without help. Queen. Coming back to attention, old Madame Huang was the first to break the mood with her outcry. Emotional in the face, my granddaughter, is shouting with you. Turning to face the granny, Bai Yen answers with a frank tone, she's fine, you don't have to worry. I left Little Rice and Xiaoying back in the human world so they're very safe right now. I will pick them up later once this is over. Tire them to death. 5, Queen, you're finally back. Breaking out into a chuckle, Bai Yen just couldn't resist after seeing that funny picture of Suzaku acting like a wife that's been left behind. Yes Suzaku, I'm back now. I've also found Azure Dragon now so there's only Black Turtle left who's missing. Really? Suzaku's eyes lit up, her smile dauntingly bright, it looks like I'm one step closer from leaving this mountain now. But Queen, is Azure Dragon well? After a momentary pause of musing, Bai Yen decides to keep the fact that their friend Azure Dragon has now been reborn as a female. It couldn't be helped, she's afraid this bird wouldn't be able to take the news and faint on the spot. Don't worry, Azure Dragon is fine. That's good then, heaving a long sigh of relief, Queen, I need to bring you to meet two people. Blinking her eyes at first, Bai Yen was taken aback by the suddenness of this request. However, towards that serious face, she couldn't refuse. Making a slight nod, all right, lead the way. Come Dragony, we'll go and watch too. Tagging along with the little lass in hand, Bai Xiachen led his partner up the demon mountain using those small little feet of his. Taking this all in from behind, Fourth Elder was rather puzzled and confused by the little prince's behavior. When did His Highness have such a good relationship with the little dragon girl? If I remember correctly, wasn't he afraid of getting anywhere near her after she kissed him on the cheek that one time? I guess children will always be children. They will forget something after a short period of time. Even from afar, Bai Yen could already hear the wailing cries of Jun Ruching as well as another male and female howling out in pain. It's eerie and creepy to the ear. Note, Jun Ruching is the fox woman who attempted to steal the queen position from Bai Yen and the first to be imprisoned inside this burning flame. What did the other two do? But before she could ask that question aloud, the answer had already presented itself before her very eyes. Inside the burning flame, the unknown woman's face and body had become transparently white due to the continuous torture. Despite this fact, her soul continues to persist after so long. As for the male that's also inside, that face looked ordinary and simple, however, that aura told Bai Yen exactly who this person was. Is he the man posing as Di Tsung? A burning hatred ignites out of the woman's pupil, her glaring eye locking onto the two perpetrators that nearly ruined her family. That's right, Suzaku's complexion darkens as her voice turned cold, this is all state teacher's fault. He made this person and hid the fact from His Majesty, that's why there is the misunderstanding. As for the other female, she's a woman who's fancies the king and the one who instructed this guy to frame the king. And, pausing for a moment, she's the one who ordered the palace guards to hunt you down, it's her. Truth was Suzaku felt very guilty regarding the whole fiasco. The first reason being Little Rice had come to her prior to Bai Yan's departure from the palace and asked about the possibility of someone impersonating one's aura and scent. Naturally Suzaku denied the idea and found it ridiculous. If only I had the same ability as state teacher, then I would have known it's possible and not let things reach that point. Remove the flames for now, I want to talk to them. Bai Yan didn't bother hiding any of the negative feelings she held for these two and sternly gave the order. Okay. Retracting the flame like the obedient follower that she was, Suzaku allowed 2 of the 3 transparent souls to fall out of the air and onto the ground. Chapter 832, Tire Them to Death, 6, In light of herself gasping for air now that she's free, Qing Shui, second snake woman, only needed a glance to recognize Bai Yan's face in that moment. Somehow her face had gotten even whiter despite being nothing but a soul right now. She's back. Did His Majesty really convince her to return? But how? She shouldn't have, considering that huge misunderstanding. What's more, this human woman would never forgive the king with her personality, she just won't. Qing Shui's voice started to stutter, making it almost impossible for that tongue to spell out a single proper sentence. All menacing in the face, Bai Yan meets the other side's gaze. What, surprised to see me? Or are you surprised by the fact that I would return so soon? Tightly biting down on her lower lip, Qing Shui's body trembled incessantly under that light battering of the mountain breeze. No need to fret, I'll tell you. It's actually quite simple. In fact, slowly coming up to the snake demoness, I was indeed very angry that day and didn't think things through. Adding in the fact that I got no explanation from Di Tsang that month, I left without a second thought. But you forgot something important, and that is his feelings for me. In order to keep me safe, my man had secretly given me a protection talisman to keep me out of danger. If that's the case, why would he try to kill me when he's so desperate to protect me? Bai Yan couldn't deny the fact that she and Di Tsang's time together was too short, making it easy for others to shake their foundation. But not anymore. This time she intends to rectify that problem. So I began to think. Going over the events one at a time, I eventually found the flaws until I was certain something was wrong. Sneering in her lips now, Bai Yan stares down at the snake's soul with contempt, and when he came for me, it didn't take much for me to believe his words. Well, explanation was honestly not needed back then. Issue was Bai Yan wanted Di Tsang to learn from the mistake of keeping so many secrets to himself, hence the reason why she stringed him along with various terms and such. Qing Shui had gone stiff at the knowledge. Slowly closing her pained eyes, bitterness gripped that voice. Why? Why did you show up? You are clearly just a human, why do you get to keep the king to yourself? Lowering her momentum at the question, Bai Yan happily obliged her. Want to know why? No problem, I'll tell you. I'm with Di Tsang not because of some prophecy you demons made up, nor did I marry him for the sake of my son, but rather for the fact that it's him. I love him and that's why I'm staying with him. That's right, that's all the reason I need. I'm with him because I love him. If you had only went after me then I might have given you a quick ending, but because you went after my son, raising a smirk, Bai Yan's face grew terrifyingly dark and dangerous. I will let you know what it means to experience hell itself. Popping her eyes out in horror, Qing Shui stutters as she watched that beautiful face inch closer and closer. What do you want to do? I'm already so miserable and hurt by the one I love, what else do you want to do to me? What can be worse than having my soul burned by an ethereal flame? Suzaku, I'm finding the temperature of your flame lacking in dealing with this person. Taking out a bottle of pink powder, she readily hands it over to the phoenix. Use this. Okay. Waving her hand, the flaming cage once again imprisons the 2 souls and allowed Suzaku to easily pour the content inside. In that instant, a heart-wrenching scream once again rang out from within. If it said that the pain from before was 10 times the normal level, then this time it would be over 100. Worse of all, her soul's unable to be destroyed or disintegrate, making this perennially eternal damnation. Return to the Holy Land. 1. No. Seeing Qing Shui's agonizing pain, the man to the side instantly showed dread on the face as he pounced over to hug the woman's body in a futile attempt to help. Qing Shui, what's wrong? Tightly biting his lip, those eyes was bursting with blood as he swung over to face Bai Yan, no matter how much wrong Qing Shui did, she's already been punished enough. Why must you torture her like so? The more this man watched the woman whom he loved suffer, the more hatred there was in his eyes. It's so bad that this impostor had started to shake profusely due to the intense rage brewing up from within. She should have been aware of what awaited when she had you impersonate Di Tsang. Slowly turning away after throwing that answer out there, Bai Yen was done here. Suzaku, we're leaving, yes mistress. Giving a faint nod return, the phoenix waves her hand again to intensify her flames, enshrouding the impostor as well in the newly erected fire. However, despite the intense pain, the man didn't scream or howl out in agony like before. Compared with the material pain of his flesh, the scorching torture in his heart had long dulled his senses. Right now there's only sadness and pity in his eyes when facing Qing Shui. That's right. Even if this foul snake of a woman only wanted to use him for her own gains, he doesn't regret it. If he could, this person that's been used as nothing more than a substitute for another, only want what's best for this demoness. He wants her to be happy. Sadly, life and fate doesn't always pan out the way it does in the stories. Not only did his perseverance and heart not move Bai Yen or her party, it didn't move Qing Shui either because this wretched snake never had him in her eyes even when things have come this far. Back over in the main gathering hall of the palace, Di Tsang had just finished taking his seat on the throne. Where did state teacher and first elder go? Coming up to answer was third elder. Arching his fist in compliance, this, we do not know. State teacher only left behind word that he needs to go do something important and requires the help of a celestial rank person to accompany him. That's why first elder left with him. Important matter to do. Arching a brow, Di Tsang's cold expression began to turn into a frown. I understand then. Also, go tell second elder and Fire Plume to crawl over to the Demon Mountain. Tell them not to come back until my wife forgives them, and if they can't. The Demon King's expression got dark and menacing to deliver what he meant despite not uttering the last bit. Third elder began to shudder all over at this notion. He understands, the time of judgment has come for those two. If Bai Yen doesn't forgive them, well, the only outcome would either be banishment or something worse. Yes, my king. All nervous in his retreat, the third elder did as ordered and passed on the message to the two. Unlike the usual peace and quietness that's become norm for the Demon Mountain, a crowd of onlookers had gathered at the base to watch the unfolding event. In the middle was an old senior and a younger-looking man, both crawling on the ground with a bundle of bamboo on their back to act as weight. Even for second elder who has lived a very long life considering his age, he couldn't deny this was shamefully embarrassing. Fire Plume coughs awkwardly. Second elder, are you able to continue? Gritting his own teeth due to shame, don't mind me, this is our fault to begin with that the queen ran away from home. That said, the pair didn't say any more useless words and focused on their arduous trek up the mountain path. Due to the long periods of lacking maintenance, the ground had long been overgrown with shrubs and thorny plants. As a result, their knees and clothes had begun to rip and bleed from the scratches installed by the greenery. For the onlookers who came to witness this event, they didn't have the courage to follow the pair up the mountain due to the fact that it's Suzaku's territory. However, this degrading image was now firmly ingrained onto their minds and became a laughingstock among the common folks of the demon realm for hundreds of years to come. Return to the Holy Land, 2, Suzaku. While inside the dainty-looking bamboo cabin, Bai Yen was just in the middle of watching her son and Dragony playing out in the front yard when she overheard the commotion. What's happening outside? Why is there so much noise? Go have a look. Yes. Arching her first, the Phoenix woman left as told to investigate only to return not long afterwards. Hesitant in her voice, Queen, there are two people outside wanting to meet you. Looking for me? Raising a brow, Bai Yen was rather surprised by the answer. I'll go out and meet them then. Getting up from the chair, Bai Yen casually strolled out of the cabin to find two unexpected people quivering at her entrance. Perhaps it's the fact that they had climbed up the mountain in such an indignant manner, but those kneecaps had already been ridden with blood, thus leaving a trail behind themselves as well. What are you two doing? Slightly furrowing her brow, Bai Yen snaps at the two men. Pale in the face, second elder uncomfortably answers first, Queen, I am here to atone for my sin. That day I foolishly believed in that impostor's word and caused the misunderstanding between you and His Majesty. Everything is my fault. I am willing to bear any form of punishment you see fit, please punish me. No, Queen, the fault is mine and not second elder's. His Majesty ordered me to bring you word of his departure in order to lift the seal, but I got careless and mishandled the mission. This is all my fault, please punish me instead. Kneeling there with tears slobbering up his face, Fire Plume held nothing back and pulled one of the bamboo sticks out from his back. Presenting it before his queen, it's obvious he wants her to whip him with the damn thing. But words are words. When the item finally left his hand after Bai Yen picked it up, his body inherently froze over for the impending strike. Yet nothing came of it. There's no pain or the sound of bamboo hitting his flesh, nor are there any words of scolding or curses, just an uncomfortable silence as he hung his head low. Did you suffer a lot when crawling up here? It was Bai Yen who eventually broke the awkward moment with her words. Chew. Queen. Fire Plume looks up in confusion, unsure what to make of that. In that case then your crimes have been atoned. Bai Yen has always been a person who holds a clear line on what's right and wrong, meaning she would only target those whom wishes her harm. What's more, does she even have the right to get angry at these two when she herself was fooled into those lies? Of course not. Fire Plume on the other hand was stiff as a rock right now despite the goodwill. This loyal subordinate of Ditsang's just couldn't believe he's going to be let off the hook this easily. In fact, this bird man has prepared for the worse. The bare minimum would be a long session of being whipped until their skin was bleeding, or at least lose half their life in the process. Getting annoyed in the face after getting no reaction from the two, what? Do you want me to help lift you two up or something? Sure enough, the fierce voice finally knocked them both out of the dazed state. Jerking up in his haste, Fire Plume suddenly found himself unable to steady his legs due to the scrapes he suffered so far. Even so, he continues to force that shaky leg to remain standing in light of how awkward and funny he appears. If one had to describe his appearance, it would be like a duck squatting around after being tired out. Unable to bear this ridiculous picture, Bai Yen rolls her eyes and points to the stone stools nearby, sit over there and rest. Once the both of you are better then go back. Return to the Holy Land. 3. Moved to tears by this point, Fire Plume was filled with gratitude based on the face he was making. Queen, the great mercy you showed me today will never be forgotten. If Her Highness didn't forgive me then the king will never keep me around. If that's the case, the only outcome would be banishment from the demon realm. This matter is not yours or second elder's fault to begin with. If they can blind me to the truth then what right do I have to blame you too? Smiling on the face, Bai Yen comments bitterly, besides, the loyalty you showed me isn't going unnoticed. Just keep being true to Ditsang in the future as you've always been. Coming down to take a seat on the stone stool now, it was second elder who spoke next. Queen, you forgiving us is your open-heartedness, but I won't forgive myself. From now here on forward, I will use my loyalty to prove my worth. Sighing at their persistence, here, these 2 pills are for your knees. Take it and quickly heal up so you can go back down the mountain. Suzaku doesn't like being disturbed. After her saying that, Bai Yen then tosses the 2 pills over and returned to her resting spot inside the bamboo cabin. But unlike her mistress though, the phoenix woman didn't go inside, she merely continues to stand there staring down at the 2 men like she's seeing some filthy peasant. Wham! From out of the blue, she actually kicks them both in the shin after seeing they had ingested the medicine. Lady Suzaku, gasping over the wincing pain, second elder pathetically looks at the lady in an unsure manner of what to do. When something like that happened back then, why did you not come find me first? Gnashing her teeth, she snaps at them both. Squirming at the interrogation, the senior somehow became smaller in terms of size. It's the king. No wait, it's the imposter. He wouldn't let me tell anyone including First Elder and you Lady Suzaku. He said he didn't want the news landing in the queen's ear. Stupid. Seething at this point upon hearing that ridiculous answer, if her highness didn't forgive you then it wouldn't be just a kick. Since your wounds are healed now scram, I don't want to see your faces. That's no different from amnesty for the pair. Scrambling to get off their butts, Second Elder and Fire Plume practically fled like a ferocious predator was behind their back. In a blink of an eye and plenty of dust cloud in their wake, the two was gone and without a trace. Going back inside once they're out of sight, Suzaku had already shed away the stern and heavy air she had, leaving only a smudge of grievance on that face. Queen, I only wanted to give them a lesson for their stupid behavior, you wouldn't blame me would you? Turning her head with a chuckle, you are only just angry, are you better now that it's vented? Suzaku immediately nodded, and her eyes became cautious. Queen, are you going to stay for good now that you're back? Raising a smile, Bai Yen frankly answers her, unfortunately, I need to leave the demon realm for another trip. Don't worry, I will be back soon. Though she's still not happy that her mistress was leaving for another time, but it still warms her heart that it's a brief one and that Bai Yen would return. From the initial frown, the phoenix was now blooming a genuine smile. Queen, I can't leave the demon mountain now, but when you bring Black Turtle back then I can finally leave this place. As I did 1,000 years ago, I will accompany you to the battlefield. Seemingly recalling back to their time together, Suzaku's gaze showed yearning and hope for the glorious days they shared. Return to the Holy Land, for Xiaqin, Dragony, let's go. One hand holding her son, the other holding the Missy, Bai Yen was all smiles on the face as she led them to the doorway. But mother, where are we going? Blinking his big innocent eyes, the little steam bun tilts his head as he eyed his mother. We're going to your father, she answers readily. Now that the crisis with the demon realm is over, I want to go back to the Holy Land for a trip. Back to the Holy Land? The kid's eye began to sparkle. Does that mean we're going to see Godfather and Sister Yi? I really miss them. Knocking on the boy's forehead with her knuckle, Bai Yen uses a doting yet stern voice to lecture him. How many times have I told you not to call your godfather's sister that way? If you call her Sister Yi then it would demote her by a generation. Covering his head with both hands, Bai Xiaqin sounded pitiful and wronged, but Sister Yi won't let me call her auntie, otherwise she won't make fire with me. Quickly realizing the mistake he did there, the little steam bun hurries to backpedal on his own words. You've heard me wrong mother, I didn't say anything about fire. I just. No need to explain. She huffs at her own boy. I had assumed it was Yi who was a bad influence on you as a child, but to think my own son is bad to the bone when it comes to being an arsonist. Very well, I'm sure your grandchiefess will have plenty of things to say to you when they learn it's your own idea to burn down the treasury vaults. Mother, making a scared and aggrieved face, the kid pulls at his own mother's sleeve as a form of pleading, please don't tell them, I know I'm wrong. Caressing her own chin, I'll decide based on my mood. That said, Bai Yen didn't delay the trip any longer and walked for the outside while donning that cheerful smile of hers. Inside the throne hall, Di Tsung continues to stare down at the uneasy-looking subjects of his. Due to that overwhelming aura that's enveloping them all, most had long been drenched in sweat purely out of reflex and not because they are worried for their lives. Then suddenly, a ray of shining hope has come to save them from the uncomfortable situation. Gorgeous in her rosy red dress, the Demon King didn't need any form of urging to fly over to sweep this woman into his embrace. How come you're here? Didn't I tell you to rest at the Demon Mountain while I finish up here? Gentle as ever in his tone, Di Tsung never ceases to amaze his subordinates on how quickly his attitude could change when presented with their queen. Actually, I've come to tell you something. I need to go back to the Holy Land for a while. Clearly unwilling based on the initial frown, the great demon king nevertheless relented and raised a brilliant smirk like he's thought of something devious. Okay, I will accompany you. No need, shaking her head, Bai Yen blankly refuses the offer. I'll be back real quick, you don't need to deliberately come with me. I'm sure there's still a lot of things for you to take care of here. In that moment, Bai Yan's brain unconsciously recalled back to the message the Lord of the Holy Land left her prior to her initial departure. And now, she and Di Tsang's strength has become too far apart. In order to keep up with him, Bai Yan must improve if she wishes to fight alongside him in the future. And to achieve that, the only solution would be to return to the Holy Land. Are you afraid I would fight with Chui Feng? The man's voice sounded all sour and jealous. Di Tsang understands very well that person holds an unusual position within his wife's heart. Mainly for the fact that Chui Feng was there during Bai Yan's hardest period while he himself remains out of the picture. That fact remains a threat and he didn't like it. Be the judge. 1. As soon as Di Tsang's words were finished, the woman in front of him had already tiptoed that feet to sink her rosy red lips onto his. By combining two of her fingers against that chin, the picture was akin to Bai Yan taking advantage of her man and not the other way around like usual. An eternity later. Be good, I'll be soon, so stay here and wait for me. Despite this tone being no different than that of a owner comforting their pet, it's damn well good enough to make this wife slave numb to his feet. Unable to refuse that request, the man's voice falls into a whisper, okay, I'll come find you after I finish my business here in the demon realm. Nodding with a smile, Bai Yan lets go and turns around. Xiachen, Dragoni, we're leaving for the Holy Land now. Batty father, Bai Xiachen suddenly runs forward to confront his old man, those eyes shining like a twinkling star. Don't forget what you promised me. I will come back after I go see Godfather and my grandchiefess. At that time, you must send me to the secret domain for training. Actually breaking out in laughter, the Demon King smiles proudly at his own boy. When have I not kept my promises to you? When you come back, I'll personally send you to the secret domain for training. Okay. That brought on a wave of smiles to the kid, making him all the more adorable at the moment. I will strive to enhance my strength until I can become Mother's wing. I will shelter her from the rain and wind. Determined and firm, those big eyes left no room for doubt because he meant it. As long as I can protect Mother, then I'm not afraid of anything, let alone some secret domain. Bai Yan had wanted to speak up to stop this situation multiple times, but when seeing how excited her son has become, she just couldn't bear to crush that hope. Perhaps able to sense his wife's mood as well, Di Tsang's next action was to wrap his hands around her shoulder in a reassuring manner. Don't worry, he won't be in any danger. He's the prince of the demon world, his responsibility is to protect his mother and sister. That's something he can't avoid. Shooting a look at her own man regarding the last bit, where is his sister? Grinning like a sly fox that he was, Di Tsang's ambiguous voice easily gave away his scheme. We can make one anytime you like. In that instant, Bai Yan's ear had directly turned a feverish red. Making a cough, this embarrassed woman didn't want to meet that yearning gaze, because if she does, she fears this perverted bastard would just rip into her clothes and carry out the deed. It's getting late already, I should leave now. Then, as if thinking of something, Bai Yan swings around again to meet his. Also, I have already forgiven Second Elder and Fire Plume, you mustn't make trouble for them. Di Tsang frowned at that. In the man's opinion, his wife wouldn't have run away from home to begin with if not for those two. However, now that Bai Yan has spoken up for them, he could only respect that decision despite the unwilling heart. Bye-bye Batty father. Waving at his old man as they left, the little steambun somehow seemed more receptive at having a father compared to before. He's actually bothering to do what a son does in a parting situation. Wait a minute. Turning around at the sudden call of her man again, Bai Yan makes a rather confused look. Di Tsang, is there something else you need? I'll send you. Among his proud face, there's a glint of pleading like he won't have it any other way. Okay. This time Bai Yan didn't refuse him. All smiles in the face, why are you acting so nervous? It's not like I'm not coming back. I only want to cherish every minute I have with you. It's true he would respect her wishes and not force along, but that doesn't mean he won't take advantage of every possible second that's within reach. Be the judge, too, quietly following behind the two females in his group, Bai Shuchen's disgruntled face showed he's frustrated and depressed. Why do I feel like I am redundant now that mother has accepted baddie father? Swinging around to blink her curious eyes, Dragony comes to the boy's side. Why? Because mother would normally give me some hugs and kisses whenever possible, but now it's always baddie father tossing me aside when that happens. I'm starting to feel like I'm not his son and was picked up from the streets. Clouded in a mist of white, the Holy Land's main base was akin to a wonderland in how surreal it appears from afar. But unlike the usual serene and peaceful picture, Bai Yan was surprised to find her former home crowded with unfamiliar faces. What's going on here in the Holy Land? I've only left for a while, why are there so many people coming to the Holy Land? Lady, aren't you here to attend the recruitment process? Why do you not know what's happening? One of the young lads nearby offers an explanation after seeing how pretty that face was. The Holy Land is going to recruit disciples again. A pang of dismay filled Bai Yan's face. Didn't we recruit people before already by sending examiners out into the world? Why are we recruiting even more? This can't be right. Did something bad happen? Mother, Bai Shuchen makes a yawn, obviously bored by the unrelated matter. I want to go see my grandchiefess and godfather, can we go ahead first? Okay. One hand holding the boy, the other the girl, Bai Yan led the way with her children for the main gateway. Unfortunately, due to the huge numbers of attendees today, she's now forced to squeeze through the main crowd where the unexpected happens. Move aside. Suddenly, a hand reaches over from one side in an attempt to push her aside. Thankfully Bai Yan reacted in time. Pulling the little steam bun to the other side, their small little group was able to dodge the rude man's act and remain unharmed. Do you not see our fiery flame sex big lady is coming through? Idling people are to make room. Not only did the person not apologize for trying to push children and females alike, this bastard actually glared at Bai Yan upon realizing his hand had missed. Just like the demon beast sect that has submitted to Bai Shuchen, this fiery flame sect was also a second-rate power in the human world, making it only one tier lower than the three major powers. So, when most of the attendees overheard the rude and pompous outcry of the big lady from this sect has arrived, it was either a display of awe or fear. Looking over at the indicated direction as well, Bai Yan could see a young female wearing a lavishly adorned dress of red that's suited for outdoor use coming forward. Aside from this, the most eye-catching part had to be the long silvery snake wrapped around that wrist as well. It's very beautiful yet intimidating. Did you know? The big lady of the fiery flame sect, Hui Yun, is also a snake tamer. That silvery snake is tamed by her. Che, if that's true then I bet even the demon beast sect would beg to have her become their disciple. Too bad this girl is the fiery flame sect's big lady, there's no way she would go become another power's disciple when she's the heir. Many among the onlooking crowd were sighing at their own misfortune. In their view, the chances of them being accepted has dropped by another notch due to another powerhouse coming to compete. Mother, that auntie is so ugly, why is she wearing red? Only mother should wear red because only you are that beautiful. Though childish and not exceptionally loud, Bai Shuchen's little remark still drew the attention of a lot of people. Be the judge. 3. Bai Shuchen's cuddly little face was full of unhappy light when he saw that silvery snake. For such a young age, his eyes are already exuding a look of dominance. The reasoning wasn't for anything else, merely for the fact that the snakes had tried to attack him and his mother before. Definitely sensing the hostility coming its way as well, the silver snake only needed one glance to shrink its head and tongue backwards after noticing the glare. The poor thing's fearful for its life and it's done nothing wrong. Impudent. The guard from the fiery flame sect grew furious. Among the various powers out there, not many would dare act so rude while being in their presence. So, when the man wanted to go over to make an example of Bai Yan and her son, it was surprisingly the lady herself who decided to step in instead. This is the Holy Land, do not cause any trouble without my order. Hui Yun's not stupid enough to make a ruckus here. She may be arrogant at times but that's always while she knew the other side was inferior to herself. As for the mother and child in front, she merely assumed they're also here for the recruitment conference, meaning there's plenty of opportunity to get even for this transgression. Come on, my cousin should be coming to pick us up so we mustn't make him wait. Turning away, Hui Yun has completely missed the murderous intent that's being hidden away by Bai Yan. Undeniably, the lady's selfish act of ordering her own guard to step back was the right move, otherwise the outcome would have been a bloody one. Mother, blinking his big blue eyes with a furrowed face, Bai Shuchen turns to Bai Yan using a pleading tone. Can I go make trouble for her? Almost uncaring in the voice, no son, remember what I taught you. Do not make trouble for those who don't trouble you, but if they do, do not let them go. The implications were simple, if they dare to offend the kid then he's free to crush them. But since they're still not doing anything yet, he's not to harm them. By this point Hui Yun had already come before the main gate of the Holy Land, and just like this lady claimed, her cousin was waiting for her already at the entrance. Hui Yun, you're finally here. A young man calls out with a beaming smile. Losing that prideful air, the lady promptly made a shy face while being in the presence of this somewhat handsome person whom she's related to. Yes cousin, I am here. Didn't my father already send word that I'm coming to attend the recruitment conference? If I can stand out this time then we would become senior and juniors as well in the Holy Land. Huh, Lin Yahan bellows out a hearty laugh at his younger cousin's comment. Don't worry Hui Yun, your cousin I will definitely see to it that you're able to join us in the Holy Land. Upon seeing how this big lady from the fiery flame sect was able to have someone on the inside, many of the crowds were showing envious looks. So she has a cousin already inside the Holy Land. Someone mutters to their partner. It would seem so. Also, I've heard that Lin Yahan isn't just some random disciple, his mentor is one of the judges for the event. Another comments from a different spot. Then wouldn't that mean this woman and her son is in trouble? They just offended Miss Hui Yun, there's no way the matter would be dropped just like that. Bai Yan did not respond to those various comments, instead she kept her mouth shut and silently listened to their conversations until her face has turned into an ugly frown. To think there's still corruption happening in the Holy Land after I told Shifu to clean out the cancers within here. Son, it looks like we came back at the right time. Curving her lips into a smile, Bai Yan's eye gave off a sharp glint. In any case, I better let Shifus and them know about what's happening here so they can pay better attention to the test. After making that thought, she promptly grabbed hold of the two kids' hand again and walked towards the main gate. Be the judge, for, due to Bai Yan sending word to Chiu Shu Rong, third Shifu, and his two brothers ahead of time, the gatekeepers here already knew Bai Yan was coming thanks to the portrait they were given. Therefore, no identification was needed when she was allowed through. Why didn't this woman need a permission slip to get inside? Does she also have a backer inside the Holy Land? I think so, otherwise why would she dare to go against Miss Hui Yun of the Fiery Flame sect? The gossiping voices continued to ring out after the group's departure. Regarding this crucial piece of information regarding Bai Yan's background, Hui Yun herself did not hear it when she stopped in her tracks to speak. Cousin, did you see that woman with the two children? Lin Yahan became surprised by the sudden question and asked, what's wrong? The woman's son offended me with his filthy tongue. Cousin, I hope you can set her straight during the preliminary selection. Bitter in her voice, this lady was cold and unmerciful in those eyes. This should be easy for cousin to do since his mentor is an elder here. Don't worry Hui Yun, I will definitely help you vent that frustration out given the opportunity. Lin Yahan breaks out laughing after thinking it was some sort of huge request. If it's merely toying with a contestant then it's simple for him. Bai Yan did not hear the scheming conversation about herself when entering the Holy Land due to the different direction she took for the Holy Island. She wanted to go see her 3 shifas and it's very likely they are there because the task of maintaining her island has fallen onto the 3 seniors after she left. Sure enough, the sight of the 3 seniors sipping tea and sitting on their chairs were soon within view. Towards this picture, she just couldn't resist a smile because it was these 3 who gave her all the warmth back then, and it was they who outstretched a helping hand during her most difficult time. Yen Yen. Renyi, second, was the first to notice the familiar presence nearby. Lighting up in the face as he stood, "You're back." His words instantly roused Jing Qi, first, and Qiu Shu Rong, third, to turn around as well. Showing surprise and joy in their eyes, the 2 happily got up from their chairs to meet the group. "Oh right, is this little lass the one you were looking for?" Puckering his lips to the side, the first brother acts like a total child despite being so old. "Also, why didn't you inform us when you were leaving the Misty Fairy house? We ended up waiting there until your grandfather came to let us know." Bai Yan starts giggling hilariously at her 3rd Shifu's appearance. "Shifus, how is your alchemy doing lately? Have the 3 of you been practicing the recipes I left behind last time?" Oomph. Jing Qi, the biggest brother, suddenly shoots an apologetic look to the youngest one before throwing Qiu Shu Rong under the bus. "Me and your 2nd Shifu have successfully refined the recipe you gave us, it's only your 3rd Shifu here who hasn't done so." "Yes, your 3rd Shifu here is too stupid. Disciple, you should harshly punish him." Renyi adds, making sure the attention doesn't fall onto himself next. Flushing red from anger and embarrassment, Qiu Shu Rong spews fire at his 2 traitorous brothers. "Would it kill you 2 old farts to not sell me out?" Almost unable to keep herself together after seeing how the 3 troublesome old fellas are about to start a fight, Bai Yan decides to change the topic. All right, I'm not here this time to check on your alchemy. There's something else I want to say." "What's the matter?" For a time, all 3 pairs of eyes were locked onto the woman's face. "I want to enter the holy domain mentioned by the Lord before." The holy domain was the equivalent of the secret domain in the demon realm. Just like all miraculous places that could help bolster one's cultivation by training in there, it's also very dangerous and one would likely not return if the enterer wasn't careful. This time, for Di Tsang's sake, for the demon realm's sake, I must take this risk. Be the judge. 5. You want to enter the holy domain? Zheng Qi exclaims, "This matter must be discussed with the Lord before we go any further. If anything happens to you, not only will us 3 here be unable to live anymore, the Holy Land will also suffer a great loss." Okay, nodding at her big Shifu's concern, Bai Yan didn't want to force the matter if they are unwilling. "I haven't seen him for a long time too, it's a good chance to go visit that old man. Also, I want to ask you 3 about another matter." Pausing for a second, she wanted to word the question correctly so they don't try to hide anything important. "Why is the Holy Land recruiting more disciples?" "It's like so." It was Qiu Shu Rong who spoke. Sighing like it's not their wish, things are not looking calm out in the mainland. In order to prepare for the crisis that we're sensing, all 3 major powers are currently recruiting people from the outside to bolster our strength. To accelerate the process quicker, we will by sending the new recruits into the mini-holy domain. More correctly speaking, the holy domain was divided into 2 parts. One was the mini version, or more correctly the less effective version which Bai Yan had also attended during her time here. As for the bigger one, also more commonly known as the Mirror of Life and Death, was the one which Bai Yen wants to enter this time around. And no matter whichever version one wants to enter, each individual only has one opportunity in a lifetime due to the restrictions placed on the domain. That meant if it wasn't a last resort and very urgent, the Holy Land wouldn't be sending ill-prepared new recruits into the mini version where it's very much possible to be killed if they are not talented and capable. If we're going to be sending those people into the mini domain, then we can't have any unfair corruption happening. We must make sure the test is fair and just. Caressing her chin, Bai Yen solemnly states this to her Shifus. Speaking of which, you came back just in time. The Lord wants you to be the judge for this event. Me? Bai Yan's eye began to narrow into a slit. I have no time to spare, I need to train inside the holy domain. Disciple, you mustn't be impatient. Opening the main holy domain requires time as well. Being the judge for the recruitment conference wouldn't take up much of your time anyways. Scanning the three old fellas with skeptic eyes, why aren't you three being the judges instead? Be the judges? How silly. Only someone with issues in the brain would want such a troublesome job. All three of them thought of the exact same response, only that they didn't dare to say it aloud. Yen, we're still rough around the edges when refining that new recipe you left us. We need time to hone our skills. Ren'yi, second, only needed a moment to come up with a good excuse since he's the clearest of mind among the three. Then where's Chui Feng? If we have the young lord act as the judge, then it will cause more harm than good. Do you think those females would still care about the test? More like they would try to devour him before anything else. Then Chu Yi. If Chui Feng is out of the question, that younger sister of his is qualified, right? Her. Of course not. With that girl's crazy character, the whole test would likely become a huge mess at the end. Heck, if her mood is bad, she might even burn down the stage down right then and there. All in all, these old farts are convinced on making Bai Yen serve as the judge today. Face palming herself, the poor woman here suddenly felt like she returned to the Holy Land at a wrong timing. Can I refuse? Her tone grew weak. No. You can't refuse, that's that. This time the judge must be you, and the princess can only be your aide at most. It's likely only you are able to control that lass in this entire place. A determined face, Ren'yi doesn't allow his student here to refuse at all. Mother, Bai Shechen suddenly tugs at his mother's sleeve with his eyes shining. I also want to be an aide. First looking at the little steam bun, then at Bai Yan's face, Dragony was also showing a hopeful face. I also want to help. We'll talk about this later, first I'll meet with the Lord and Chu Yi. Oh right, where is Chui Feng right now? Is here in the Holy Land? Bai Yen asks after a moment of hesitation. Almost immediately, the three seniors' faces were stiff and awkward when they sighed. Be the judge, 6, Bai Yen could already guess the answer after seeing their faces. For that, guilt was all she had to feel for the situation because she owes that man way too much and couldn't return any of those feelings. Let us go, Zheng Qi, first, pats her shoulder with a bittersweet smile. Although we are eager to have you accept the young lord's feeling, but we also know love cannot be forced. Regardless of what you choose, us three will always support you. Shifu, overflowing with warmth in the heart, Bai Yen makes a genuine smile at their support. You three will always be my Shifu too, now and forever. Ha ha ha. Zheng Qi laughs aloud. What more can we ask for when you're going that far? Come, we will go see the Lord. He was just mentioning you not long ago, saying he's wondering when you will come back to see him. Inside a room, the table here was a total mess while Chu Yi continued to nibble on the chicken leg in her hand. Due to this act, her mouth has become covered in fatty oil while the handsome middle-aged man across the table eyed her consciously with a pang of drunkenness in the face. Pa, did you call for Bai Yen to come back yet? Casually tossing the half-eaten bone to the floor, the young girl locks onto the wine bottle in her old man's protective hand. Not missing this thieving look in his own daughter's face, Lord Chu Ran directly sends a knock on the girl's head with his knuckle and covered up the lid with a cork to stop any chances of a theft. This is something Zheng Qi, first, spent a lot of effort to get me. I have already given you a sip earlier, don't even think about stealing the rest from your pa. Shooting a warning look, Chu Ran's face told the lass that he will knock her again if those oily fingers so much as moved an inch closer. Also, Bai Yan should be coming back within the next few days according to the elder's word. Oh. Chu Yi's petite face promptly bloomed a shining grin as her eyes lit up. That's wonderful. I have to write a letter to brother so he knows when to come back. Although Bai Yan has already accepted Di Tsang to be her partner, but this troublemaker knows her older brother only needs a glance to be satisfied. Therefore, a sister must do what a sister should, and that's making opportunities whenever possible. When Chu Ran was about to comment some more, an old attendant had hurried through the door and interrupted their conversation. Cupping his fist, the senior spoke, "Lord, Princess, Elder Zheng Qi and Miss Bai Yan is here." Though everyone in the public was now aware of Zheng Qi and his two brothers taking in a disciple after Bai Changfeng's birthday at the medicine sect, that still doesn't mean they know who exactly this individual was. For this personal attendant of Lord Chu Ran though, the master of the Holy Land, he's one of the few who's truly privy to this secret long before everyone else. What? She's back. So fast. Lord Chu Ran jerks up from his seat in a panic. In response to the mess on the table, this man quickly cleared it out with a wave of his sleeve and stuffed everything into the storage bag. Following that he also brought out a clean robe to drape over his dirty clothes to cover up the stains, all the while not forgetting to take a pill to remove the drunkenness from his face. Chu Yi on the other hand was not as clever as her old pa there. Completely unable to react to this quick movement, she was still covered in food oil and her clothes were filthy dirty like it's been run through a dumpster. Did you forget she has a phobia for cleanliness? Seeing the dull look on his own daughter, Chu Ran reminds the girl with that whispering comment to urge her to move it. Sadly, it was already too late. Just as Chu Yi was about to get up from the table, Bai Yan and Zheng Qi had just so happened to walk through the doorway. First thing they saw was the disgusting picture of the girl's rancid appearance. Furrowing her brow, Bai Yan spoke first, "Yi, it's not enough that you've polluted your own room, now you're also defiling the Lord's room." Giving the air a sniff around the girl's body as well, her mouth inexplicably lowers into a frown. "Did you drink? Have you already forgotten the last time you got drunk? You almost burned down my holy island." "No, it's not like this, it's my pa." Now the poor lass didn't even get to cry foul because she's been caught red-handed. Also, it's not like Chu Ran was just going to stand on one side to let his daughter drag him into this hot mess either. The father who sells his own daughter out. What did I teach you before? A lady needs to be dignified. Not only are you gobbling up meat without manner, you're also drinking. This is unacceptable. Chu Ran speaks in such a righteous manner that it's hard to rebuke his words. "I only drank a..." Stupefied in the face, Chu Yi didn't know what to say more. "What? You drank a whole pot?" Chu Ran angrily points at the girl's clothing like he's accusing her of doing something criminal. "How can you even try to make excuses when you drank a whole pot? To think my own daughter would be so wild when I'm not paying attention. In particular is your nerve to drink in my room, now it's filled with the smell of alcohol. How am I supposed to sleep tonight?" There's an incredible disbelief in the girl's eye as she stared at her old pa. Suddenly, a strong impulse of wanting to cry takes hold inside. "I only took a sip, why is pa framing me? Bai Yan, is there something the matter in coming to see me?" Chu Ran turns to face the woman. From the original stern face he used against his own daughter, his expression now was soft and kind. "This girl has always tried to hide away from me ever since I attempted to hook her up with my son. If she's not needing something then there's no way she would come of her own. Lord, remember what you said when I came out of the mini-domain? I wish to enter the main one to continue my training. May I go in? In fact, of the 4 years she spent at the Holy Land, 2 of which was spent training in that place. If not for the fact that she misses her younger brother Bai Xiao dearly and went back to find him, she would have continued on to the main one right away. Chu Ran was a little surprised and perplexed by the request. You want to enter the holy domain? That's right. Firm in her tone, Bai Yan's face showed no sign of fear or hesitation. Sighing at this sight, lassie, I did say you can enter the real holy domain, but you must understand that the danger also increases exponentially. Compared to the mini version you entered, it's hundreds of times worse. I do admit though, when there's danger and wealth usually comes hand in hand, there's no better way than enhancing your strength in this manner. Looking up to face the woman's eye, Lord Chu Ran's voice became solemn and stern. Also, the time flow inside there is unlike the outside, it's much slower. If you spend a year in there then it's only a month out here. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Bai Yan did not answer right away because she didn't know about the fluctuating time flow. I need an answer that you are certain of. Do you really want to go in there despite all the dangers involved? Softening up in his voice on this part, the man's face was neither aggressive nor rude. Yes. Alright, I will respect your choice here, but know that it will take a lot of time to open the entrance to the holy domain. Slowly coming up to Bai Yan to give her a pat on the shoulder, Chu Ran's tone sounded regretful. I've always treated you like my daughter-in-law, but now that you're married to someone else. No matter, you will always be my daughter. Lord, moved by those words, Bai Yan almost couldn't hold back a trickle of tear from how moved she felt. These people here have done nothing but treat herself and her son good. Chu Ran chuckled at this image. I won't bother you with the unimportant stuff, just know that I have always wanted a capable daughter like you. If Yi could even be half as good as you then I won't have to be so worried all the time. Definitely hearing that last comment about herself, Chu Yi didn't even know who to cry to about her woes. Am I that unwanted? I knew it, someone else's child will always be better than their own, that's why Pa's belittling me so much. Frame 1, Making a dry cough to lighten up the mood, Zheng Qi finally decides to speak. Lord, I have another matter I like to report. What's the matter? This time I want to recommend Yan Yan as the judge for this event. Do you think it's a good idea? Zheng Qi's proposal actually made the middle-aged lord go mute. Pondering for a while, the person turns to the woman herself. Lass, do you want to accept your Shifu's proposal? How long does it take to open the entrance to the domain? And how long is the recruitment conference? She asks with deep thoughts running through those eyes. It takes more than a month to open up a portal to the holy domain, that's more than enough time to finish the recruitment tests for sure. Okay, flashing a strange light in those irises, the woman's lip had curved into a smirk for some reason. I will take over as the judge for this event. Chu Ran laughs and pats her shoulder again. Now I can be relieved with you as the judge. Follow Bai Yan and gain some experience. Do not stray from her side and make sure to follow her directions to point, understand? Chu appeared to be very aggrieved at the moment because she still hasn't forgotten how her father just framed herself. Just when the girl wanted to cry out to defend herself, Chu Ran had already shot her a warning look. The meaning was very simple, sell me out and you're done for. Perhaps it's how terrible that look was, but the troublemaker actually cowered for once. Shaking her head like a rocking drum, she didn't say anything like instructed. A humph. Zheng Qi coughs again to gain their attention. Since we're finished with what we came to ask then we will take our leave first. I still have something to ask my student here in private. Arching his old fist, the elder pulled Bai Yan along until they are completely out of sight. Relieved at the close call, Chu Ran immediately breaks out into a grin like his own daughter does when she's done something bad. In a wave of his sleeve, the dishes that he hid away was now back on the table. Let's continue. Laughing heartily, he smoothly takes a seat to warrant a disgruntled face from the girl. Forget it, I'm going to look for Bai Yen. Wait. Seeing how quickly the lass was moving, Chu Ran promptly cried out, remember what I told you. If you sell me out then I'll marry you off in the coming day. I'm sure there are plenty of nice young men around with the test happening. Almost tripping over herself when listening to that ridiculous comment, this troublemaker of course wouldn't have the courage to sell her own father out. Like old like young, their similarity was uncanny. In the coming days the private grounds of the Holy Land have become much noisier compared due to the large influx of people. In order to not allow this ruckus to disturb the disciples that's already inside training, the attendees were all gathered on the outer rim inside one courtyard for easy management. At this time, a certain lady was anxiously pacing back and forth inside a little room with her gorgeously red dress when the door was pushed open. Big cousin, what did your mentor say, did he agree to help us? Lin Yahan sighed helplessly when facing his younger cousin, Hui Yun, I'm afraid this time I won't be able to help you. In that instant, the ecstatic expression on the lady's face had frozen over. Why cousin, your mentor's status is exceptionally high here, how come he won't help us? Or is he unwilling? Frame 2, cousin, you misunderstood what I mean. It's not that my mentor doesn't want to help you, rather something unexpected has happened. The judge for the test has been changed to someone else. That individual is so mysterious that I can't even find out who it is after spending all morning asking around. Bittersweet in the face, Lin Yahan honestly thought the matter would be easily handled with his connections. Who could have thought it would make a sudden twist at the end? Upon this explanation, the lady herself wasn't looking so good either. No one knows herself better. Unlike the talented geniuses from the other sects, she herself was nothing but a fraud. What talent and ability to tame snakes! They're all boastful lies made by her own sect. For example, this silvery snake around her wrist was subdued by an elder and then handed to herself. If not for the accessories around her body that could suppress others' ability to examine her true strength, the public would have long exposed herself. Now imagine someone poking fun at her in front of the public, that's equivalent to playing with dynamite, hence the reason she's so obsessed with removing Bai Yen. Cousin, can you help inquire about that judge then? As long as I know who that person is then I'm sure I can get them to help me. Tightly gripping her fist, Hui Yun raises her hopeful face to meet those eyes. Looking at his little cousin's pitiful appearance, the young man just couldn't help but shake his head. The Holy Land is very confidential about the identity, and my mentor doesn't even know where that person came from. Also, you would never guess, the princess of the Holy Land will be attending the test as her aide. Hui Yun was shocked by this news. If even that evil princess is only worthy of being her aide then what kind of background does that one has? However, you don't have to worry. Aside from the mysterious judge and the princess, there are some other disciples helping them as well. As it so happens, I know one of them and have a good relationship. Through him, I can guarantee your selection. Raising those lips, Lin Yahan makes a smile he believes to be quite handsome. After all, no one person can take into account of the entire test. When none is looking I'll make my move and have you win. Hui Yun finally breathed a sigh of relief. Punching the young man's chest like a shy little maiden, cousin, I'm so happy you thought of everything for me. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Making me all worried and stuff. By the way, do you know that woman's identity yet, the one I told you about? Feeling the soft tender hand against his own flesh, then seeing that pristinely white skin around the girl's neck that's almost showing the coveted part, Lin Yahan gulps hard. I've had my people check on her already. Don't worry Hui Yun, your big cousin here won't let you down. Of course, I will always have confidence in you big cousin. You have never let me down before. Hanging that head low like she's all shy and stuff, just that I hope you can help me make that woman disappear during the selection. I don't want to meet her and her son. Ha ha ha. Laughing, Lin Yahan went ahead to begin caressing the girl's hand. Don't worry Hui Yun, I will do my best. Though I can't directly dismiss that woman due to them all having some sort of background, however. Frame 3, slightly narrowing in his eyes, a flash of coldness flickers in the man's iris. I have a way to make that woman lose her reputation and standing. Once that's done, it will be easy to expel her from the Holy Land. By then she won't be able to compete with you anymore. Nothing but a woman, I can easily deal with her since I'm a disciple here. No one will be able to displease my little cousin here. In no time at all, 3 days had come and went just like that. For those coming to attend, they are now gathered at the venue awaiting the start of the test. Among those standing out the most had to be Hui Yun due to the large entourage she gathered around herself. She exuded the air of proudness, yet cold and distant like a figure of superior status. Nevertheless, the facade on the outside could never hide the impatience on that face. Miss. Suddenly, the maid to the lady's side speaks up, that woman is coming. Shooting her attention over to the indicated direction, Hui Yun could see the mentioned woman and 2 adorable-looking children. Under the glistening ray of the afternoon sun, the woman was gorgeous and mesmerizing in that rosy red dress, a true fit. Meanwhile the little boy holding the left hand wasn't so bad either. Donning a purple robe of noble air, it's hard to imagine why such a small child could produce such strong momentum. As to the young missy that's holding the right hand, she's sweet and pretty to look at. Anyone seeing this picture would simply want to be melted away by that cuteness. This woman is finally here. Darkening in the face until it's somewhat menacing, do you remember what I told you before? The maid nodded hurriedly, of course milady, I remember everything very clearly. Good. Hui Yun sneers, cousin is right, this woman deserves to have her reputation ruined. Just as Bai Yen was in the middle of leading her 2 little kids up to the main stage to oversee the test, a sudden sarcastic voice had caught her ear. Some people are really shameless nowadays. Even though they are without true skill or ability, they still want to participate in the test. And to think they would try to bribe the judges' people just so they can be selected. How can such people be so dumb to think the members of the Holy Land are that easy to be bribed? Bai Yan's forehead immediately furrowed up as she came to a stop. Loosening her grip around the 2 kids' hand, she swings around to lock eyes with the owner of that voice, the maid. Just now, are you talking about me? The maid scoffs, clearly unfazed by the attention, am I wrong? I personally saw you trying to bribe a disciple earlier. Where do you think we are? How can a member of the Holy Land be bribed by the likes of you? Xiao Ling. Not giving Bai Yan a chance to speak, Hui Yun pretends to cut her own maid off by asking for more details. What do you mean by those words? The maid that's known as Xiao Ling complied just like planned, milady, it's like this. Earlier when I was out getting something for you, I saw this woman trying to bribe one of the Holy Land's disciple and even tried to use her own body to tempt the poor guy. Of course, I picked up the reasoning is so she can be selected during the test. I truly can't stand for such filth and refuse to let someone so low to be in the same event as you milady, that's why I'm exposing her before the public, that you're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.